It's in wheel time, coming your way in 5 seconds, so stay with us, baby. Live from inside the world-famous Sugar Shack in Texas, USA, it's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Coming up, we're going to meet up with Houston Circle Track Racing. We have the upcoming events calendar. Mr. Mars reviews the new Subaru Impreza, and I say new, it's the 2024 model.
Out of this world, Mars.
That's right. Plus, we're also going to give you the stories making automotive news headlines today. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We always need Jeff Zekin.
Yep.
I'm Dot Armstrong. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday morning. While we wait to check in with Owen Pittman at Houston Motorsports Park.
You're getting there.
What do you say, Mars? He's tapping his foot and twiddling his thumbs. I like that word, twiddling.
Yeah.
Sure that's his thumb?
He does. He does that a lot. No, we're not sure of anything.
Sure
No,
enough.
not this morning.
Definitely sure.
All right. Well, since he's not ready, I'm ready.
Conrad's watching the show
Conrad's
already.
ready.
Look at
Checking
that.
sound.
Are you
What?
checking sound?
You
That's
always
what he
want us
does.
to check sound.
I
make
do
sure
want to
everything's
check sound.
working.
That's exactly right. Because I'll tell you, we have been on the air on this program for many years now, 12 to be exact. And I will tell you that nothing is more frustrating than trying to find the playback of this show and there's no audio. Why?
We got to turn it on.
Because we forgot to turn it on or something like that. Ran across this story on what made the Chevrolet Corvette an innovator in the automotive world. And this is from Corvette Forum, which I'm a member. Gives me lots of information. And if I have a question, just go on there and you get about 100 answers real quick. So the number one thing about the Corvette is, it may not seem like a big deal today, but in 1953, using an all fiberglass body was considered quite exotic. The material not only lightweight, but also rust-proof. But it was originally selected because it was more economical to build a low-volume sports car this way, rather than create large sheet metal stamping dies. Every Corvette since has featured a composite material body, as do many other exotic sport cars.
And
it's
it also made it easier to make some of the curved shapes.
Correct.
But you said it was lighter weight compared to the steel cars at that time in 53?
Yeah.
Because I think technology now are even lighter and lighter and lighter.
Correct.
As the fiberglass
As a
goes
matter of
on.
fact, they don't even use fiberglass anymore.
No,
it's just a big plastic car.
Yeah, but the
Exactly.
steel cars back then, you could stand on a fender and it wouldn't bend.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a car today, you stand on a fender and it's going to crumble.
Correct.
You
You don't even have to stand on it.
You just lean against
Leaning
it.
against it. The number two thing, the GM Small Block V8 1955. To say the GM Small Block was revolutionary would be the understatement of the year. It debuted in the 55 Corvette and Bel Air. All these years later, the GM Small Block V8 still shares the same basic architectural features. The LT2 found in the 2023 C8 Corvette uses the same 4.4-inch bore center spacing with one camshaft in the block and two pushrod operated valves per cylinder. The GM Small Block is one of the most versatile engines ever developed. The engine changed the automotive industry, and I would go along with that.
I would venture 50 million built through the years.
Yeah, at least. Number
That's
three
a solid number.
was the fuel injection system from 1957. The 57 Corvette was offered with a Rochester fuel injection system. The exotic Mercedes-Benz 300 SL is widely considered to be the first car to offer fuel injection. However, it was the Corvette that really brought this technology to the masses. The early Rochester Ramjet, as it was called, used a continuous flow injection system with atomized fuel squirted toward the back of each intake valve. It was a $538 option, which was a lot of money in 1957.
Ton of money. 10% of the price of the car.
And it helped the Corvette to deliver exactly 1 horsepower per cubic inch. The 283 cubic inch V8 with fuel injection made 283 horsepower. It was the beginning of the end for carburetors.
So what was the fuel? What year was the fuelie? Well, it wasn't 58.
57.
57. But you said Mercedes had the fuel
50.
injection in 58.
No, Mercedes had the fuel injection in the 300 SL.
Right.
In 1958.
It didn't say what year.
Oh,
I think even before that. I think it was 53.
There you go. That sounds right. Number 4 is the independent rear suspension in 1963.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that it was 63. Like fuel injection, the Corvette was not only the first car to have an independent rear suspension, or IRS, but it was the car that made it famous, starting with the beautiful 63 split-window Corvette, put in an IRS, independent rear suspension, in the car. The main advantage of this setup is the ability to let the rear wheels move independently of one another. This greatly improved handling, as well as the ability to fine-tune the suspension. It was a game changer.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to argue that, but there's another piece to that story. Pontiac's Tempest had an independent rear suspension as well because it had a rear transaxle. And the independent
What year?
I didn't realize
What
that.
year?
63, 64.
63. My cousin Vinny.
My cousin Vinny. Well, that's not why I know that, but that was
That's why I
the
know
story.
that.
Well,
That
my
was the
cousin
story.
Douglas had a Tempest. I kept saying he had a GTO back in the day. When I talked to him, he's actually a Tempest that he cloned into a GTO and did the power mods on the engine.
So again, that was another independent rear suspension at General Motors, but the Corvette was probably the first, and that followed shortly after.
Number 5, T-Tops, 1968. And I remember when they came out, I was like, wow, how
What
cool
was it
is
on?
that?
On the Corvette?
Corvette. First production car to come with T-Tops. The T-Top configuration offered open-air driving when considered when desired, and a closed coupe when not, with the ability to remove or install 2-panel roof panels. The configuration was so popular that many believe it led to Chevy discontinuing the convertible option in 1976 and not offering it again until a decade later. Many vehicles used the T-top design, with perhaps the most famous being the Trans Am featured in the film Smokey and the Bandit.
Right.
Number 6 item, the C4 Digital Dash, 1984. When the C4 generation Corvette finally came out in 84, it was met with much fanfare. One of the most intriguing features was the new digital dash layout. It was extremely futuristic at the time, and for many, that remains their favorite part of the early C4s. They went out of style for a while.
Pretty spacey looking in its day.
They went out of style for a while, but today it is tough to buy a new car of any kind that does not have at least one digital gauge.
And Corvette has not been in continuous production since 53, right?
Yes.
What year did they miss?
86?
No.
84.
83.
83.
Just before because
I
when
get
you
the
said
booby prize.
84, I remember they skipped that 1 year as they transitioned from the C3
You
to
can't
the
say
C4.
transitioned.
Number 7, the LS1 V8.
Yep.
1997, which is what I have out there in the driveway. Mine is a
Great
2001.
motor.
Another legendary engine that was born in the Corvette. The LS1 V8 first appeared in the new C5 in 1997. The 5.7-liter unit produced 345 horsepower.
Can't say unit.
The aluminum block LS1
They don't have
weighed
any.
specifically less than the previous generation iron block V8. The LS engine series immediately rose to stardom. They went on to power not just Corvettes, but everything from Honda to Porsche has benefited from an LS swap at some point. Number 8, magnetic ride control. What year?
Oh.
6 or 7, 2006.
I don't know.
2003.
Oh.
While Delphi Corporation's Magna Ride suspension control system first debuted on the 2002 Cadillac Seville STS,
I was going to say Cadillac was the first one to come out with
it
that.
became standard equipment on the 2003 50th anniversary Corvette, and it was the Corvette that made the technology popular. The system uses magnetorheological MR fluids and valveless dampers to provide a wide range of damping force control along with enhanced responsiveness. This same system was eventually used by Ferrari in 2007
Sold to Ferrari by General Motors.
for their $300,000 and up 599 GTB Fiorano. Number 9.
Do you know what Ferrari sold to GM in return? The carbon fiber brake rotors.
Interesting.
Now, I would think that should be on your list as well.
It's not. Number 9. Number 9 was the LT6.
Okay.
Carbon fiber brakes are great for racing. They're not so great
No.
for street use.
It's $1,000 a rotor.
Yeah, stop and go traffic.
And you got to heat them up to make them work.
And if you spray any schmutz on the wheels and you
You're
get it on the rotors,
screwed.
you were absolutely
Well, just
screwed.
even water, road dirt.
Schmutz.
Okay, number 9, LT6 for 2023. The most powerful, normally aspirated V8 engine in a production car. Underscore normally aspirated in a production car is the LT6 that can be found behind the driver in the new C8 Z06. This 5.5-liter cross-plane crank, work of art, makes a screaming 670 horsepower, normally aspirated. GM might be new to the cross-plane crank game, but they hit a home run in the first at bat. 50 years from now, people will look back at the LT6 as one of the most incredible internal combustion engines ever developed.
And it sounds like a sewing machine at high RPM.
It does. It's really cool.
It's a really great sound.
And number 10,
Dun, dun, dun.
70 years of Corvette, 1953 to 2023. The last one on our list is not a single innovation, but a collection of them that has allowed the Corvette to thrive for 70 years. The Corvette is the world's longest-running, continuously produced passenger car. That just doesn't happen without some major advancements along the way. The Corvette itself has revolutionized the automobile industry. The Corvette is, of course, a great car, but its mere presence has inspired other automakers to improve their sports cars in order to compete. The Corvette has made all cars better, and it will continue to do so for the foreseeable future.
I would agree with that. And has a passionate, loyal fan base.
Absolutely.
Passionate, loyal fan
Me
base.
included.
Yep.
Yeah. I love my car. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a hot rod.
Sounds like a song by Queen. I love my car.
But I also think that C5, like yours, to me, that's the last Corvette as far as I'm concerned. The new ones, the 6s, 7s, 8s, I don't think they even look like a Corvette.
No, I think that
To me, they don't.
They have evolved. They've definitely evolved. I mean, you go from the C1 to the C2. Okay, it's an easy transition to make. You can see it.
kind
Right.
of. Yeah.
But then you go to the C3, and wow, that's the Mako Shark.
Right.
And that was a huge transition.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And
now
then C4 to C5 was a huge transition.
And doesn't on the show Bitch and Rides, didn't they make their own Corvette, or
Yeah.
they use
They-
styling cues
Yeah.
from that?
Kindig builds his own version of a 53 Corvette.
Right. On a
And
modern
it's-
chassis
yeah,
and all.
but it kind of addresses a lot of the shortcomings of the original 53 as far as interior size and space and stuff.
many years ago, I was fortunate enough to see the O2, the 1953 production model O2.
Okay, number 2 car.
Number 2 car. And it's rough.
Oh yeah,
Unrestored, and you can see the fiberglass through the paint.
Yeah.
There was no gel coat on top of it then. It was just the fiberglass.
Just paint.
and a very thin layer of that Arctic white paint. and
now
it
you can just see the orange peel.
Yeah,
none of that.
on a white car.
And it did not have roll-up windows.
Nope.
It was very
Basic,
basic car, yeah.
Inline 6-cylinder.
antiquated.
There was only one way to get it. White.
That's correct. Yeah. Automatic. Or did they offer a 3-speed manual?
I think it was a 3-speed manual.
And then they went to the power slide transmission as an option later on.
And then in 54, it was a bomb of a sales
it
year.
was.
It was actually
They actually thought about canceling the
Right.
production of it.
and then 55,
The
when
V8.
the V8 came out. And then, you think of a lot of those things you just talked about, the small block Chevy V8, the fuel injection, how that actually went into the Bel Airs,
Yeah.
went into the Impalas and stuff as that
Well, the bigger the car, the bigger the
Technology.
horsepower too.
yeah, but that technology was developed for the Corvette, but shared with lots of the rest of the Chevrolet line.
Well, that's in
through
any
the years.
engineering, any R&D.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
And that was Zora's template, was to do the R&D and all the development stuff on Corvette, and then see how much of that he could push into the rest of Chevrolet. You got to remember, my favorite is the 65 with the 396 engine in it. It was the only year Corvette came with a 396. It was actually a 425 horsepower 396. Pretty powerful little motor. And there you see a few of them around every now and then, but it's a relatively rare car.
Interesting.
The whole Corvette thing, the story behind it all, and the way it's evolved over the years is pretty fascinating.
Well, you
to
said
me.
you had met Zora somewhere.
I did.
You got a picture with him or something?
I did.
Yeah.
As I was looking for it, I was going to put it up in my office this week. Let me look real quick.
Uh-oh. Standing by.
Stan who?
Talk amongst yourselves.
Don is taking his headset off.
Oh,
that means
no.
this is important.
Oh, my
Or this is
Lord.
impotent. We haven't
It's
figured out
impotent.
which.
It's important.
Don's going to bend over and show his better side to the TV.
You got it? You found it. Yay. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can see it.
perfect. There it is. All right.
Don and Zorro. Zora.
Yeah. Doesn't have a mask on, so it's not Zorro. Zorro.
I was going to say, was that you in the cowboy hat down there? But I didn't know for sure.
Oh, look at you. Look at that head of hair.
Look at that.
Well, that had to be pretty cool.
He's wearing pants.
And Don has pants on.
That's a cool shot.
Pants on that time.
And it's an autograph, too.
Oh, Bill's in the picture, too.
Yes, Bill and Sharon Seitz is in there.
Wow.
And, so you see that Zora signed it for me.
Mm-hmm. Right on the top there.
Pretty cool picture, isn't it?
That is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
That's the Oklahoma Corvette. And he was the featured
Guest.
Speaker.
not speaker so much because, he had a very thick German accent. Very thick German accent.
Well,
But
I mean,
he was a brilliant man.
But definitely the father of the Corvette.
Yeah.
And the evolution of the Corvette through C3.
Uh-huh.
Was he wasn't Mako Shark, though. That
He-
was kind of his end.
That's correct.
Right.
A
But,
Wiedersehen.
Oh, yeah, off Wiedersehen.
Oh,
Yes,
Wiedersehen.
exactly. So at any rate, I thought that was kind of neat. We decided not to put it up in the office because it just didn't fit the rest of
The
the
decor.
decor.
So Leslie decided, not we.
No,
Nobody's
actually, we
office.
did. We did because
You
you
and
go,
your
Mike.
other alter egos or
There you go, buddy. Perfect.
Exactly.
personalities.
Yeah, it was. I wound up using four pictures from my drag racing days.
Oh.
Yeah, with Hot Rod Fuller and the Valvoline Top Fuel Dragster.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyway,
Because Amato had a
I was
Valvoline
thinking-
sponsor as
I
well.
was thinking he was going to start talking about his red pumps and his drag racing days.
you're kind of stuck on that right
He is,
now,
isn't
aren't
he?
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He walked in this morning with that.
Must not get out much here lately.
Well, I mean,
He walked in talking about Bud Light. is what he did.
well, yeah, that's how that whole thing started. Speaking of Conrad,
oh, boy.
let's just move right along right now and do the events calendar.
There you
Now,
go.
this, typically speaking, can or cannot be a big weekend for, events, yes, but cruise-ins, which is later, maybe not. So,
Well,
here-
yeah, as far as events go, there's, again, June 24th, the Lone Star Drift Round 3 at the Houston Police Academy. On June 16th, the 18th annual Cystic Fibrosis Foundation Benefit Cook-Off in Corinth, Texas. Should be a pretty good car show and a barbecue cook-off.
There you go.
That'd be fun to go to.
Yeah.
The only thing it'd be better if it was at a brewery.
Well, anything barbecue is good.
I'm sure you can get a brewski there.
And then, what is it? Next weekend is Coffee and Chrome
Next weekend is Coffee and Chrome.
Right.
at the Avalon Diner, which is, for lack of a better way to call it, is
Meadows.
59 and,
Yeah.
and Highway
98.
90-ish.
98, yeah.
And then, big weekend for all the racing going on this weekend.
Yes, it is. We got that in another calendar. But, yeah. But let's not forget the Lone Star Street Rod Association meet
In
up in
Granbury,
Granbury, Texas, where
That's
we
going
will
to be a blast.
in 2 weeks.
It's going to be a blast.
There will be.
And then have we set a date for the next tailpipes and tacos?
Not yet. Not yet.
Working on it.
Working on it. Trying to pin Stan Holt down is like
he's a busy
herding
guy.
cats.
Yeah, he's always on the move.
All right, time now for this hour's car review. Mr. Mars had a chance to drive the 24 model Subaru Impreza.
Yes, sir. And
This is our first review of a 2024 model car. We're not even halfway
think you're
through.
right.
We're not even halfway through 23 yet.
No, we're
Typically,
not.
the next year models would come out in October,
Right.
but not
Typically,
anymore.
But you know, my wife's Kia, when we bought it was instead of coming out in October, we got it in June as the next model year.
Well, that's because you're connected.
Well, no, that's just because Kia is one of those people, they bring them out early, like Subaru is starting to do. You know, they don't live with the fall thing anymore, which I wish they did. It'd be more fun. But we are talking about the 2024 Subaru Impreza. Now, this is the RS. It comes in 3 trim levels now. They've dropped the sedan. They dropped
That's
the
a
sedan, and it's a hatchback only. You can get it in the base, the sport, or the RS as the top trim level, and we did have the RS as the new trim. It's an all-wheel drive vehicle, compact hatchback, weighs in at 3,323 pounds. And I say that because some of the vehicles
That's
we've been
heavier
talking
than I
about
thought.
lately are up in that 4,000 pound range, and so it's a little bit lighter than some of them. So it's all been redesigned for 2024. Up front, you're going to find, because it's the RS, it's got the black frameless hexagonal grille. Side spoilers, side mirrors are all blacked out. It's got the compact headlights with a black trim around it. Got body color door handles, which I really like those because they kind of blend in almost like it's shaved like a custom car would be.
We like it shaved.
Yes, we do. And it's got the LED lighting. The headlights are the steering responsive type headlights that'll follow you around a little bit. We've got fog lights, tail lights, side marker lights, all LEDs. Got the sound insulating windshield, which really contributes a lot in this vehicle to how quiet it is on the inside. Got a lot of RS badging on it. Comes with some 18-inch sport wheels that are blacked out. And it's got a power moonroof. Now, some of this is strictly specific to the RS trim level. Get on the inside of it, and again, we've got some RS package features on it. It has the black cloth seats with the red bolsters on it. Got gunmetal and carbon fiber trim pieces scattered around as part of the RS. It's got a new 11.6-inch screen sitting in the center of the dash. So it's where you're going to find all your convenience controls, your nav, all your things like that you're looking for. And it works pretty good. I was kind of impressed at how responsive it was to looking around and searching for things. Comes with a 60/40 folding rear seat. Had the optional 10-speaker Harman Kardon audio system with 432 watt.
How did Jimmy Buffett sound?
Everything sounds good when you crank it up. And like I say, it's surprisingly quiet for a compact car. And you know, because you know you're in a smaller vehicle, but it's got room from a driver's seat. It's got plenty of room. Now, under the hood, exclusive to the RS, is the 2.5-liter Boxer with a direct injection on it, 182 horsepower, 178 pound-feet of torque.
Four-cylinder?
Four-cylinder. CVT transmission. Now, I think it could use a little more juice, personally. I think a turbo would be great on this thing. Something that give it a little bit more because of the way it drives and handles. It's got a 10% stiffer chassis on it in 2024, so it is firm, but from a driver's perspective, it kind of gives you a little more of that sports car feel, sports car handling. It's a fun little car to drive, but it could use a little more juice, in my opinion. EPA says you should be looking for 26 miles per gallon in the city, 33 on the highway, 29 combined. Now, I did get 28 across 471 miles that I drove this vehicle. I drove it a lot. I like to drive in this little car. The base trim price on this is $28,975. The as tested price is $31,045. Had a couple of $1,000s worth of options in it. If you're looking for something to compare it to, a Honda Civic hatchback. Now, this is a 23. Haven't got a price on the 24 yet, but it's $24,750. A 23 Mazda 3 hatchback is $23,550. A base model prices, and you look at the base model price on the Impreza at $24,085, and they're all right there in combined is that compact hatch group of vehicles. And I think that they work really well personally because the hatch in it is smaller, but you got easy access to the back. You got a lot more room than you would have if you had a trunk back there. So I like this vehicle, and for the price of $31,045, I think it's something you need to look at.
And Subaru, too, has an extremely loyal customer base.
They
Not
do.
only that, but a
Very
safety record,
reliable
too.
Safety
The
record.
safety
Very good
record,
safety
yeah.
record,
Yeah, one of my daughters asked me about that. She said, "Isn't that supposed to be a real safety car?" And yes, it is. And it's all-wheel drive.
All Subarus are.
Yes.
And
So
yes.
there's
I
a
think
lot
they're
to
all
it.
CVT as well.
Well, I had a Subaru last week, and I will tell you, I was thoroughly impressed. And I haven't had a Subaru in quite some time. Boy, they have stepped up their game.
They really have.
What a great riding car. Just right on the horsepower. It's not going to win any races at the drag strip, but that's not what it's made for. No. It was a cute, really nice, small SUV. I'll tell you all about it next week, but I was thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, that's the way this one was. And the only reason I think that it needs a little more juice personally is because the RS trim makes you feel like it's more of a sports car. And it's got plenty of power. Don't get me wrong. It'll go down the freeway at 80 miles an hour without even thinking about it. It's just in riding around the...
You're breaking the law?
Wasn't thinking about it.
You're breaking the law in that car?
Never. I'm just saying it could do that.
But
if it wanted to.
Subaru has had a turbocharged 4-cylinder in the past, but I don't think they have it anymore, do they?
I don't know where it would be. I don't get that many Subarus, so I'm not.
I don't either. I don't think they offer the turbo anymore.
And if you buy a Subaru, they make a donation to the animal shelter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are they making the WRX?
Yes, they still make that. And some of the suspension components off of the WRX is into this RS package. You know, I didn't want to get quite into that far into the weeds, but there are some components to it which contributes to that driver experience. And that's my thoughts on the Subaru Impreza RS.
He said into the weeds. I didn't know that you liked weed.
I'm impressed with it.
What?
He said it.
You're very impressed.
He's got that smirk on his face over
He's
there.
high.
He is on life. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available 24/7 through the iHeartRadio app. Just look for In-Wheel Time Car Talk. We also video stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and InWheelTime.com. We still on Twitch, Mars?
Yes, sir.
30-minute podcasts are at your fingertips on over a dozen of the most popular podcast outlets out there. And somebody questioned me about that this week. I said, just go to, who do you get your podcast from? Oh, I get it from so-and-so and so-and-so. Well, go there. And they looked, In Real Time Car Talk, boom, there it was.
Yeah, haven't found one yet we're not on.
Yeah, it works out really well. Anyway, time now for a quick break. In Real Time Car Talk Show continues right after these messages. Everyone at the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, thank you for participating in the best cruise in around and look forward to seeing you again. You'll hear about the next cruise in date right here on In Wheel Time. Next time you're in the West Houston Energy Corridor area, be sure and stop in at the original Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex at I-10 and Highway 6 or the Katy location on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard. When passing through Beaumont or College Station, stop in and have Lupi's award-winning beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. There's always a celebration at Lupi Tortilla. Lupi Tortilla founder Stan Holt and his wife Sheila are winning racers on the NHRA drag racing circuit and have a collection of hot rods and classics that everyone appreciates. Look for them at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In. The date will be announced soon and will once again be held at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex on 99 and Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 and Katy. We'll give you all the details right here on the In Real Time Car Talk Show and online. Donations benefit God's Garage. We'll see you then. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Real Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Real Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InRealTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Wheel Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. It's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Coming up, Bobby Stout on Lone Star Street Rod Association's yearly meetup in Granbury, Texas, of which we're going to be a part of in a couple of weeks.
Can't wait.
Later, look at the stories making automotive news headlines this week. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong, and thanks so much for joining us today. Is Bobby ready?
Well, as soon as I can get him to unmute, he will be.
Oh, okay.
Bobby.
So, Bobby, you need to unmute. And I don't know if you know how to do that or not.
Yep.
Yeah,
He just did.
he's good to go.
Is he good to go?
Talking in the background.
There you go. We can see you. We can hear you. Look at you looking all pretty and dapper on a Saturday morning.
Happy to be here.
Well, thanks so much for
Don't
joining
lie to
us.
us.
Yeah,
No, I'm happy to be here.
yeah, we all are. Hey, man, we got a big event coming up here in a couple of weeks.
We do, and getting excited about it. It's a year-long process to get here, but the weekend goes fast, and it gets here fast on us sometimes.
You know, it's funny because we have a lot of events that we get involved with that are yearly events, and I think that most people, the casual listener, viewer of this show, really doesn't understand, but it really does take a year because most of us don't devote full time to this sort of thing. It's a part-time thing, but to put on a show like this, it is a year-round event that you have to keep working on every week, at least doing something to get to the point where you can put on a great show like the Lone Star Street Rod Association show.
Well, that's very true. We actually, the show will end on Sunday, and on Monday we'll start talking about next year's event. So it's not a full-time job for all of us. All of us are volunteers, and none of us get paid for putting on this event. All the money goes to the association. From our vantage point, it's a labor of love. My tagline that I try to tell people is, I got interested in cars as a kid. I hung around drag racing for a long time as a teenager and starting into my young adult life. And then I got married, and the Friday night after I got married, I tore the transmission out of my car, and we only had one car. So I became a mechanic overnight.
Yeah.
And the tagline that I use is, it's a hobby that became a passion that became an obsession.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
so
That works.
That's a great way to put it.
That describes not only the participants that work on their own cars or that have cars and bring them. It's a chore to bring 1920s or 1930 model car across the state of Texas and have an event. So you have to be passionate about it. And for those of us that do things like work all year long on the event, that becomes a obsession for us. So I don't know what level you want me to go into discussing. I'm involved in my local club is the Christian Classic Cruisers here in the Fort Worth Metro Cities area. Lone Star Street Rod Association, which is we call it a statewide association, but it's multiple states. We have members that come in from Arkansas for this event each year. And then at a national level, I'm a member of the National Street Rod Association. So I'm an official at the National Street Rod. I'm a DJ, sound guy for Lone Star. And then for Christian Classic Cruisers, I'm the treasurer. I'm the nerd in the club. I do the website. I help people with their computers and their phones. And then I've been the treasurer since 1997. So all of that is a labor of love and a passion.
Well, that, sir, is all, combine all that, that's a full-time gig.
That's a lot.
it
You're
is.
actually the Mike Mars of us.
Oh, well, it's full-time, but I have a full-time job that I work about 12 hours a day, all time and on weekends as well. So I find time. I'm fortunate enough that my children are grown. Matter of fact, I categorized them as old a long time ago.
Oh, God.
When they reached the age of 50. I thought 50 was way over the hill. Now I have children that age. It's something that we want to do. We talk about, we go to dinner with car people most every night. We go to church with car people. We hold car shows at churches to bring in men and families into the church. So we are devoted to the car hobby.
Well, I have
Sounds
to tell
like
you
it.
that my wonderful girlfriend, Leslie Anikierico, she has, through me, been exposed for the first time into the car culture. And she had no clue. I think our first event that we went to was the Corvette Invasion last year. And she thought, oh, well, that's cool. It was in a kind of like a cruise in, and I'd taken her a couple of those. And then we go to the Hot Rod Tour of Texas. And that was a whole new experience for her because, as you know, being a car guy, there are so many different levels of all of this. There's the racing, there's the showing, there is the cruise-ins,
The street rodders, the muscle cars.
But what all brings it all together is the people
Exactly.
that are involved.
The network.
Yeah, the network of folks, and that's really what it's all about. Because without all the people, you wouldn't have all the cars and everybody having the same passion.
Absolutely. A very dear friend of mine is a chaplain of National Street Rod Association. And one of the things he tells people is the cars bring us together, but actually it's just a big family reunion. The cars are what we have in common. So you can look at I go to a car show in Louisville, Kentucky that will have in excess of 10,000 cars. And if you look at the hours that the show is open, the number of cars that are there, you have 8 seconds per car to see them all. and you don't go to look at the cars. Yes, I'm in Springfield, Missouri right now at a car show. We'll have about 1,500 cars here this weekend. And I'm one of the officials that are here and judging cars and doing things. But it's the people I talk to. I look at the car, I admire the car, look at engineering, I look at craftsmanship. I look at paint and upholstery, but it's the person sitting behind the car in their chair that I want to talk to. That's what is part of the passion, is the people. Absolutely.
And there's some great stories between the person and the car, not just about the build, but about the history. Some of it may be the emotion of this was the kind of car my mom and dad had when I
Exactly.
grew up, and now I've created a street rod out of it. And in some instances, it may be the exact same car that their mom and dad had when they grew up, and now all of a sudden,
and
they've
it's
turned a
men
street
and
rod
women.
out of
It's
it.
not just men that are the gearheads, the muscle heads. It's the
absolutely.
women as well.
I will tell you, I married the right woman 55 years ago. She goes to every car show. I don't go to any event alone. If I'm judging cars, she can get out there and judge cars with me. If we're just walking around the fairground or a parking lot looking at cars, she's right there with me hand in hand. So it's men and women, and we tried to drag our children into it, and our grandchildren.
Absolutely.
So it's a hobby that is very worthwhile. It can be expensive if you want it to be. I mean, we've got people that are building $2 million cars competing for the Riddler Award in Detroit every year. And then you got the guy that's got $5,000 invested in his car. So it crosses all types of people. It crosses all industries. It crosses all occupations. And at the same time, we all have the same uniqueness. When I pull up in my car, I can park right next to a car that, in my terminology, is a rust bucket, and mine's all shiny. It doesn't matter. We both get out, shake hands, sit and talk all day.
Exactly. And
So it's an event that we truly enjoy. And I will tell you that Granbury is a city that embraces us. So we're always happy to be in Granbury. We hold our meetings there. The Lone Star Street Rod Association comes in from around the state, as far away as Midland, from your neck of the woods, down in Houston, Cat Springs, and those of us in Fort Worth, and then there's some in East Texas. We drive to Granbury 4 times a year to hold meetings to make sure we're all on the same page and we're all at the same point and focused on the event that happens each year.
Well, Bobby, we've talked a lot about Lone Star Street Rod Association, but we haven't talked about your car. What do you have?
I have a 1934 Plymouth Coupe.
all right.
It's currently under, I would call it, re-restoration. We've had the car since '97. It had a 350 Chevrolet engine in it. And every time someone would come over and look at my Plymouth, and I had the hood up and I had it shining and you could see yourself in the valve covers and all that kind of stuff, they would look and go, "Oh no, it's just another Chevy." So they were walking over to a Mopar produced car, and they were expecting something different. So I explained to my wife, I said, when we get to the point we're going to rebuild, we're going to put a Mopar engine in this car.
Putting a Hemi in it?
We've got a 6.1 Hemi setting in it right now.
Oh, how cool.
If that's going to be the final engine, I'm not sure, because we're building from the frame up. I lifted the body up and either gave away or sold everything from the wheels and the frame, the engine, transmission. Every piece of it went away except the body. And I'm building from the frame up. And so we're in that process. I have to show pictures to people because I don't have a car to show them right now. I can talk to them about it, but I can't show it to them.
Now, are you buying? Did you buy a frame, or are you building it yourself?
No, sir. I'm not a builder. I can do some of the things, but there's some things I don't do, such as welding, painting, and upholstery, and high class body work. I can pull a dent out, but I can't do a rebuild or chop or anything else like that. So I have to depend on somebody else. I'm building a tubular frame. It's custom built per my designs, and obviously with the engineering capacity of the frame builder. Then when I get ready for paint and upholstery, I don't have to have the car at somebody else's shop.
Yep.
I'm a nerd. I've been in computers since 1970. The Air Force taught me to be a nerd. And so I can do all the wiring. I can do all the mechanical. I can turn all the nuts and bolts and screws myself. But there's some of the things that require talent, and God blessed me with something else other than those talents. So I have to ask somebody else to assist me, and then usually pay dearly for it.
Isn't there a TV show called "That's My Final Engine"? Because you brought that up. That's your final engine.
I don't think you can hear you. You need to speak up.
Yeah, I would say that was my final engine.
So, did you get the engine out of a salvage car, or is this one of those that you ordered from Mopar?
No, I haven't ordered one from Mopar. This one came from a gentleman named Mark Campbell up at Street and Performance in Mena, Arkansas. It was an engine that he was putting in his own car, and we needed it in Chicago to have the frame built. So Mark crated it up, shipped it to Chicago, and then I brought the car back down to Arkansas to be worked on and have some modifications made on the metal. And when we picked the car up in Chicago and trailered it down to Arkansas, it wound up staying in the car. Unfortunately, Mark passed away, and they closed Street Performance. So I have a 6.1 Hemi, but I don't have the computers to go with it, and so that's another side of deciding what I'm going to finally put in it. So the engine will be built. The car will be driven on the road. So National Street Ride holds shows as far away as Bakersfield, California, or Burlington, Vermont, and Carol and I intend to drive our car to those events. So It has to be performance oriented. I mentioned I grew up in the drag racing world, and it's got to be able to go fast and stop fast. So the brakes have to be superb, and then it's got to be comfortable. And we obviously want all the amenities of 1934, like 6-way seats, cruise control.
Air conditioning,
cold air, yeah.
Yeah, you got to have. Well, I have to have cold air. I married a cotton farmer's daughter, and she doesn't want to perspire, so the air conditioning must work.
Hey, I married a cotton farmer's daughter too. She grew up chopping cotton, the weeds out of the rows of cotton.
Really?
My wife did that too, but as a teenager, we've known each other since we were very small children. As a teenager, I volunteered to her dad. I'd come chop cotton just to be with her out in the field, so I was in love.
That's what you young kids are calling it now.
Yeah.
Cotton chopping.
Yeah, we know there's a backstory to that. We won't go into that right now.
No, we don't need to go there.
Let's talk about the event in Granbury in a couple of weeks. So when does it start, and what can we look forward to?
It starts on Friday afternoon. We start registration. We open registration. People pull into the park there at Hewitt Park in Granbury. Friday afternoon is kind of an all unofficial activity. As the DJ, I will set sound up on Friday morning, and we'll start playing tunes. We play predominantly 50s, 60s music. We'll slide in a few 70s here and there, but it's predominantly that genre of music that we're going to play. And we'll crank the sound up and let it play till about 8 o'clock that
I was
night.
kind of looking for a little hip hop myself, but
Oh, you were not.
I was not.
You can go on downtown. Well, you probably won't find that in Granbury.
You got to go to Dallas.
Well, Don,
you can go on down the street and find it, but I don't believe you'll find it in Granbury. But
Don-
the event, like I said, begins on Friday at noon. Saturday morning, my car club, Christian Classic Cruisers, as the host club, will show up at about 6 o'clock at the front gate, and we call that activity manning the gate. What we're looking for at registration is they issue a button that you pin on your shirt, and we're making sure that they have a window sticker on their windshield so that when they pull in the park, we know they're registered. It's sometimes a frustration for the new participant because he wants to come in the park and walk across the street to the convention center, but we want them to register before they can come in the park. So we direct traffic. So we're traffic cops. We're manning the gate for participant acknowledgement. Then if we need to assist someone in getting parked, we do that. So as a host club, we start at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning. The event officially, we shut down at 4. I continue to let the music play throughout the park until 8 o'clock that night. Then I'll shut it all down and load some of the sound equipment back up in the trailer. Then we come back on Sunday morning and we do a church service. We have a local gospel quartet group that will be singing called Living Water. One of their members lives in Granbury, and so it's a home event for him. They will be singing gospel quartet music, and then Jim Rowlett, the National Street Rod Chaplain, he will be bringing scripture and the word as a church service. So we do a partial church service. We have singing and preaching, but we don't take up an offering. Then we begin the award ceremony. So somewhere about 11 o'clock in the morning, we'll start with awards. And we'll be through with awards by 12:15 or so, and the event's officially over at that time.
How many awards are there?
As the host club, then we have to tear down all the sound. And you guys were there last year. I have speakers run entirely around that entire park so that I don't have to play the music loud. I tell everyone I'm a DJ without an ego. The music should be in the background because you're there to visit. You're not there to listen to my music and my PA announcements. So we start on Thursday morning and we finish on Sunday afternoon, and we do a lot of activities on Saturday.
How cool. Yeah. And you're so Granbury is such a welcoming city, very gracious to us when we showed up, and, they're so happy, actually proud to have Lone Star Street Rod Association come and do their event there. The city of Granbury and the officials there were pretty neat. They were fun to talk to last year.
I know that Kathy and I are very excited about going. And I was going to ask, how many awards do you give out on Sunday?
Each director gives an award, so there's 8. And then we have, there's probably a total of about 15 awards. There's things like we have elected, as directors, they have elected a street rodder and a Street Rod Lady of the Year, and we give them a chair that has been embroidered to have all their information on it. That award is probably the top award of everything going on because they serve as the Street Rodder and the Street Rodder Lady of the Year. That's a very honored award to get. And then there's clubs and organizations. Christian Classic Cruisers will give an award away. National Street Rod Safety is there to inspect cars, which is it's a free activity to the participant. They give an award away, so the state safety inspector that's there will pick a car that he likes. As a NSRA official, I will also pick a car that I like. Then we have various other organizations throughout the state that they want to give an award away. So somewhere between 12 and 20 awards, depending on how many other activities are going on.
Sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to be part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to seeing you again, and we'll all get married in a couple of weeks.
Well, I'm excited, and for those that have cars that want to come participate during the award ceremony, we have a drawing for a Napa tool chest, and this at standing at 5'7", I can't see in the top drawers of it, so it's a huge tool chest, and it will have a screen on it, silk screen on it that will display the Lone Star Street Ride event activity on it. So we're all excited. We're looking forward to it. If you're in a nursing home and listening to this in Granbury, we'll drive through your parking lot on that Saturday afternoon. So that's one of the events that we do, that the Granbury Police that you talked about, the city of Granbury embracing us. The police department will give us an escorted drive through the city of Granbury to visit the nursing homes.
Wow.
How cool.
So that's
nice
always
touch.
exciting for both the participant and the resident.
Well, Bobby, it's great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I know you got to run, and you take care of yourself, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you at the park.
You
Thank
got
you.
it. Bobby Stout, Lone Star Street Rod Association, and the big meetup there in Granbury on June the 10th. Okay, time now for a couple of the stories making automotive news headlines this week. Got some recalls to tell you about. Mini. Are they still in business?
Yep.
Mini? Yeah.
It's kind of a leg of BMW.
Yeah.
It is.
They're not really mini anymore. They're getting bigger and bigger.
I know. So there's been a bunch of recalls. Control module in the footwell may short circuit. The Mini Cooper, the Cooper Clubman, the Cooper S, and the John Cooper Works.
You got to go get a pedicure to fix it.
2007 through 2014. Electrical short in the power liftgate module in the Jeep Cherokee, 2014 to 2016. Child seat anchors may not function in the Chevy and the GMC, the Equinox and Terrain, respectively, 2020 to 2023. Rearview camera image may not display in the Ford Explorer, the Lincoln Aviator, and the Corsair, 2020 to 2023. Mitsubishi Outlander, 2022 to 2023. Rearview image may not display. Porsche Taycan, incorrect brake pad wear indicator.
Wow.
Is that a safety issue?
It's an
How is that
annoyance.
a safety issue?
It's probably a compliance issue more than a
Thinking
safety
that,
issue.
yeah.
It's
Got to remember, a recall can be either compliance, that they
Or
didn't
safety,
follow
yeah.
the rules, or safety because somebody's life's in danger.
well, there's that. Volkswagen Group and its Audi unit have agreed to an $85 million settlement in principle over violations of Texas environmental laws stemming from its diesel cheating scandal. That's according to embattled Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. The settlement stipulates that the German automakers pay a civil penalty of $85 million for their unlawful actions. Earlier this month, the Texas Supreme Court ruled the state environmental lawsuit against Volkswagen and Audi could go forward. Volkswagen, which declined to comment on Thursday, previously settled U.S. actions prompted by the emissions scandal for more than $20 billion,
Ooh.
but that did not shield it from local and state government liability, courts ruled previously. 2015, VW disclosed it had used sophisticated software to evade emissions requirements in nearly 11 million vehicles worldwide. It also misled the EPA, which started looking into the matter in 2014. Whoops.
Yeah, you know it's okay for the government to lie to you, but you can't lie to the government.
Yeah.
Or no, at least don't get caught. State of California has asked the Biden administration.
Please.
Has asked the Biden administration. I can't
You need to
believe
turn
Talk
him
about
down.
stupidity.
I
Turn him
can't
down,
believe
turn him
that
down.
Jack Nerad still lives
I
there.
know.
State of California has asked the Biden administration to approve its plan to require all new vehicles sold in the state by 2035 be either electric or plug-in electric hybrids, according to a letter seen by Reuters. The California Air Resources Board, which approved the plan in August, asked the Environmental Protection Agency on Monday to approve a waiver under the Clean Air Act to implement its new rules that set yearly rising zero-emission vehicle rules starting in 2026 and would end new gasoline-only powered vehicle sales in the state by 2035.
Because their power grid is so wonderful that it'll be able to charge all those cars.
It is going to be a calamity out there.
So there was a fleet that is buying a bunch, I can't remember who it was, is buying a bunch of Tesla trucks in California, and I think it's to move all of that stuff in and out of the Long Beach shipping yards. And they don't have enough electricity to recharge those trucks every night.
Well, they use them on the big electric cranes.
Right. Well, those have their own built-in diesel generator. It's like the the cranes here at the Houston, Port of Houston. They have a big, huge diesel generator at the base of those cranes, so the crane can operate electrically. So your electric crane still runs on fossil fuel.
And will continue to, because it doesn't.
Except in California, because it won't run at all.
Right.
The only thing will run are all the Californians away.
I was thinking the same thing. The people are running.
And great news for radio fans of the AM frequencies.
Dun, dun.
Ford Motor Company will keep AM radio in all 2024 Ford and Lincoln models and restore it on 2 electric vehicles via a software update, according to CEO Jim Farley. In a tweet, Farley said the decision was made after speaking with policy leaders about the importance of AM broadcast radio as part of the emergency broadcast system. The company removed AM radio from the Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning and planned to discontinue it on all products moving forward. Farley said the company would look for other ways to deliver emergency alerts in the future. Ford's reversal comes after a bipartisan group of lawmakers last week introduced legislation to bar automakers from eliminating AM broadcast radio on new cars and light trucks, citing safety concerns. The bill would direct NHTSA to issue regulations to mandate AM radio in new vehicles without additional charge.
Yeah, the way they're going to do is they're going to put your mother-in-law in the back seat and smack you in the head and go, here's an emergency broadcast.
But if they can do it by software,
it means
how does the car cause the interference?
Bingo.
Didn't I say last week that there's going to be some company that will invent something to override that? We talked about that.
If they can do it by software, to me, that means that problem didn't exist.
Exactly. And, that's
streaming through my phone was just great.
Frustrating.
Let me just say that. Okay.
The silver alert messages. Don's on the loose.
The little device that you plug in your Corvette to get
my phone.
Yeah.
For the Bluetooth
that
connection.
type of technology.
Yeah. It's silly. But whatever. All right. Time now for a quick break here on the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay with us. Everyone at the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, thank you for participating in the best cruise in around and look forward to seeing you again. You'll hear about the next cruise in date right here on In-Wheel Time. Next time you're in the West Houston Energy Corridor area, be sure and stop in at the original Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex at I-10 and Highway 6 or the Katy location on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard. When passing through Beaumont or College Station, stop in and have Lupi's award-winning beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. There's always a celebration at Lupi Tortilla. Lupi Tortilla founder Stan Holt and his wife Sheila are winning racers on the NHRA drag racing circuit and have a collection of hot rods and classics that everyone appreciates. Look for them at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In. The date will be announced soon and will once again be held at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex on 99 and Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 and Katy. We'll give you all the details right here on the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show and online. Donations benefit God's Garage. We'll see you then. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In-Wheel Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InWheelTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Wheel Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. Live on iHeartRadio and the Smoke and Mirrors Network, it's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Coming up, we talk with Sumit Chauhan, COO of Cerebrum X, on climbing insurance rates.
Oh, boy.
Have you gotten your new bill yet? Have you renewed your insurance yet, or have they renewed you?
Don't need no
We're going to talk about
insurance.
that. Also, I drove the 2023 Nissan Versa. I'll give you my impression of it. We'll also have the cruise-in calendar, and Conrad has This Week in Auto History. And I'm going to bring you the stories making automotive news headlines, all just ahead in this hour of the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. And joining us in a repeat performance, but a different subject, is a fellow by the name of Sumit Chauhan. Sumit, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Very well,
Good to
thank
see
you. And good to see you, and thanks for joining us today. A different subject. Today we're talking about climate insurance. Climbing insurance. Well, climate insurance, I guess, would kind of go hand in hand with climbing insurance rates on your car.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was a good night for me last night, so just shut up over there.
Too much tequila.
Well, yeah.
Or not enough.
Never,
One of the
never
two.
too much.
And the day's not over.
Exactly. So, Sumit, I know that when my insurance renewed this year, I took a hit, if you will, want to call it that. I don't understand why insurance companies, and other companies for that matter, don't actually program in increasing rates at a reasonable rate. But some of these rates, from what I understand, are up like 15% from last year, or even 6 months ago when your insurance renews.
Yeah.
What is up with that? Why did they do that? They give themselves a bad name.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me again here. And this is obviously one of the topics that is very close to the heart of everyone who works at Cerebrum X, because insurance is one of the key verticals for us. I think I would start by saying that, I don't know what was the issue with your car when you went to renew it. But for the newer cars, there is a valid reason for the insurance rates to go up, which is just that the technology that's going into the car, obviously is more expensive. The systems that assist in terms of ADAS, autonomous driving, so on and so forth, are obviously more expensive. And hence, from a cost and liability point of view, in terms of any replacement, damage, crashes, so on and so forth, the insurance companies are taking a much more heavy liability on their books upfront. So that's one of the reasons you will see that, in my view, the insurance rates at a classical level will keep climbing. But what we have to look at is two other things which go hand in hand and which might be able to offset what we see here. Those two things are what we call usage-based insurance. If you're genuinely a good driver, and if you allow access to your data in terms of how you're driving, whether that is acceleration, deceleration, cornering, so on and so forth, that will help you in terms of reduction on your premium values. Why that happens, just so that you understand the unit economics here, is because the insurance companies, once you are able to give them data, it proves to them that you're a better driver. They're able to mark down the liabilities on their books by about close to 20 to 25%. And out of that 25%, they would offer about 10 to 15% back to the consumer. So you will see a reduction in your premium by at least 10 to 15% if you're using usage-based insurance.
But let me just take that one step further. So I consider myself a very good driver. I haven't had a ticket in years, and the ticket that I had was an illegal turn.
Knock on wood.
knocking on
What are you
wood.
talking about over there?
That's plastic.
So there's that, and I don't speed. I haven't had any wrecks. So why is that any different than everything else? Why do I have to have something plugged into my car to prove that? Doesn't it prove that on my record?
That's excellent. That's an excellent question, and I'll try and answer that. So that you understand it. I think because it's very technical, so that's why I said I'll try and answer it in a way that everybody understands it. I think if you look at cars today, you will see that when you put it on auto drive, there is something like a collision detect which is upfront, right?
Yes.
You will get that warning when you're too close to the car in front of you. What is happening now is that the number of times that detection, or let's say a lane change warning or a lane detection warning comes on the screen, that is considered as risky driving in terms of the algorithms that are out there, which contribute to, let's say, who's a good driver or a bad driver in terms of a driver score. Those things were never available before. Nobody knew how many times somebody was cutting a lane. Obviously, ticketing and everything is different. That's very egregious. But in terms of just normal driving behavior, how close you're driving to the car ahead of you, how many times did you pass on into the other lane without really knowing it? What I mean to say is all those small factors are now going to play a role in terms of how you're considered as a good driver.
Well,
or
look,
a bad driver.
if that were the case, then I would fail and my insurance rate would be $1,000 a month.
I understand, and luckily for you, all of us other us mortals drive the same way. So the algorithms are going to be basically, I would say, measured or threshold based on how general public drives, right? So
Yep.
It is not going to ask you to be God or Michael Schumacher when you're driving, but it'll ask you to be a better driver and at least tell you where you are going wrong. And if you're able to kind of take care of those things, your insurance premiums will go down.
So I have to tell you, Mike and I get to drive press cars every week, different press cars. There are some press cars that we drive, Mr. Mars, you know what I'm talking about here, where I'm going with this. And when the screen comes on, when you start the car, it says, this car is monitored by the factory. So, my God, if they were to look at my data, they might go, let's not loan him a car anymore.
Maybe why we don't get so many of certain brands anymore.
I'm thinking that the insurance companies are putting the onus on the driver, but
That's
it's
right.
the uncertainty of the technology is what you're being insured against. So that should fall on the manufacturer.
You are absolutely right, and I will elaborate on that as well. So let's take the example of Tesla, right? That was the first car which had a lot of software in it, which had self-parking and the highest level of autonomous driving.
Yes.
So you can argue very well that in terms of that car, there is really a very small onus on the actual driver once it's in autonomous driving, which is a fact, right?
Yes.
Then the onus lies on the driver. And that has come into play, as I think I mentioned on the last show as well, in terms of self-parking and the car banging into somebody else. There are a lot of litigations going on right now where the OEMs have to pay up, for those, right? But the larger point that I'm making is what is happening at a larger scale is the parameters like, as I mentioned, collision detection, the forward collision detection, and lane change are going to become integral parameters of algorithms that are going to be used to calculate driver score, which was not there earlier. If it is in autonomous driving, I think the onus will lie on the OEMs. If you're driving yourself, then the onus will lie on you. And of course, the car, is able to track when it is in full autonomous mode, whereas when you were driving, so you can figure out whose fault it was. But right now, it's a gray area, I think, as I mentioned previously as well, because, it is a lot of interchange that is happening between autonomous driving and manual driving. Once we have a clear path as to autonomous driving and the highest level of it, I think things will be a little clearer. But we are in that kind of twilight
Transition
phase, right?
mode. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then the cost of repairing a car is accelerating so fast. I work for an aftermarket warranty company. I'm a claims adjuster for them. And, this week we replaced a sonar sensor in the forward warning collision in an Infinity product, $2,400 for a sensor.
Wow.
Just for one sensor, and it carries 4 of them across the front of the vehicle. So, that can be vastly expensive just trying to repair a vehicle today. After an accident occurs. And I'm sure, the insurance companies, of course, they're in business to make money. And who do they make money from? Don Armstrong.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant point, and I'll give one other example, which aligns with what you said. I think if you're an extended insurance or extended warranty provider, right, beyond the first 3 years of warranty which come from, the OEM, then obviously what was happening previously was, let's say your engine light comes on when you are in warranty, right? The company which was providing that warranty would never come to know of it, because only the driver can actually see that light, right? The physical light come on.
Yes.
And if he or she keeps driving, with that light on, it will actually lead to much higher cost when it comes to servicing that vehicle or correcting that problem. What is happening now is, because of the technology where you can monitor the car on a constant basis, both the end consumer as well as the warranty provider know when the engine light comes on, which then they can put the onus on the driver to say that within a day you need to take it to a service center, which is the right thing to do, right? If you don't do that, then your warranty can actually be null and void. And from a user point of view, obviously, it's also good that if they are able to, clearly show that they took the car in, so on and so forth, there is nothing that the warranty provider can say or do to say that, no, you were at fault, so on and so forth, because everything is available in terms of data. Sure. So I think that is one of the advantages that you saw. And of course, in a crash scenario, the first thing is to understand who was responsible for that crash, right? So if you have a 360-degree view of what was happening in the car, how the driver was driving, and what was happening on the road, because you have front-facing cameras as well as cabin-facing cameras, and those snippets and feeds are available, at least in a fleet cars where, privacy is not so much of an issue, then you can better understand who is actually liable. Right now, what happens is, if 2 people crash, the 2 companies talk to each other and they figure out what is the least cost path, and nobody really cares who was actually responsible for the damage. Unless there is an injury to someone, then obviously, you get into the litigation for that, so on and so forth. But on a go-forward basis, I think the insurance companies will have more data to really know, who was at fault, when such things occurred.
Right. GM's OnStar and systems like that have been collecting that data for years for accidents and stuff. And I know that the kind of data that they collect in the systems from my time at General Motors. But I don't think that they are integrating the cameras into that data collection. But I can see that easily happening with so many cameras and sonars and radars on the cars today. It'd be real easy for them just to dump all that in a module somewhere for recovery at some point for litigation.
You're absolutely right. I think the reason for them not doing that today is, one, not many cars today actually have dash cams, which are integrated as part of the OEM rollout. Most of the dash cams that you see today are aftermarket devices. So the OEMs don't really have access to that feed. Whereas we, as a third party, we are partners with people like LG and also Pioneer, who actually manufacture those aftermarket devices. So we can actually get the feed directly from the camera, obviously with the consent of the end user. And then we, as a company and technology and a platform, can stitch that story together, as I mentioned, of what's happening inside the car, outside the car, and from the health point of view of the car itself.
Yep.
Including, you had talked about in-car cameras, because I know on the GM Super Cruise, there's a device that's watching the drive. I don't know that it's a camera, but some device that's watching the driver to make sure that they are still attentive to what they're doing and they're not falling asleep or reading a book.
That's absolutely right. Traditionally, what you would see in most of the cars now, if you don't move the steering wheel while you're in autopilot, right, it will give you a warning that, there is very less activity and you need to, kind of stop for coffee or something. So that was based on the touch mechanism of the of the steering wheel, or any kind of sensors that are installed on the steering wheel. But now, as you rightly mentioned, that technology is transferring to actually monitoring your eyelids, right? How attentive you are in terms of watching the road. Are you falling asleep, or are you droopy, or are you looking left or right, and so on and so forth. So that technology would come into play.
Are your pupils dilated?
I read somewhere this past week that Mercedes-Benz has a feature, or they're trying to develop a feature, where you can change lanes just by moving your eyes.
That's correct. It's more like gesture control, where you see, by moving your hand left or right, you're able to change, screens on your, on which music you're playing, so on and so forth. So in a similar way, I wouldn't be a great fan of that technology, but yes, there is technology available where it can detect eye movement and you can control anything with your eyes. I wouldn't suggest changing lanes with your eyes, because it could lead to accidents while you're distracted,
or an unintended marriage.
Yeah.
Honk
the horn with a finger.
He's gone.
You get you a fork in the road, and you must be cockeyed to look at it.
Exactly. When you come to a fork in the road, take it.
So I have to ask you, what kind of car do you drive?
I drive a Honda, and I also drive a Mercedes. So I drive both of them.
And so are you connected to your insurance company?
That's correct.
You are. He is. Okay. Yeah, and you get a 20% discount because you're such a good driver.
Well, not because we are connected with them as a partner or a customer, but yes, hopefully because I'm a reasonable driver, yes, I do get that.
And when they
discount.
see this, they're going to double his rate.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. What are we going to talk to you about next time we meet again?
Well, I think one of the things is, how data is going to change when we move deeper into the EV world, as well as smart cities, where municipalities have access to your data for various purposes, like disaster management and traffic planning and so on and so forth. So we could talk about that, but anything would be interesting as well.
I have a question for you. Just expectations, if you will, because you drive the Mercedes, the Honda. So if you're backing up, do you use your in-dash camera, your rear view camera through the in-dash screen, or do you look over your shoulder to see where you're going?
Yeah, honestly, I use the camera more than I would actually look back. So I don't understand the driving test that they have now, where they expect you to actually look back and not look at the camera, because most of the cars, the rear view camera is a standard feature, I do look at it more. Well,
I was taught. Some of us were taught to look over your shoulder. And even going to some of the OEM events several years ago, whenever they started really pushing this camera, and particularly with the round 360 degree, don't rely on this. Look over your shoulder, watch where you're going. But I think expectations have changed
a little bit.
Yes. Sorry, just 1 second. I'll tell you why that was. That was because when you looked at the rear view mirror and the side mirrors, they had a blind spot in them, right? Whereas a camera has a much more field view, in terms of what you can see there. So things are much better with a camera.
Absolutely,
I
including children and stuff behind you that you couldn't see by looking over your shoulder or in your rear view mirror.
Or Ford trucks.
It's always great to talk to you, and we will talk to you here in the next month for our next session, okay?
It's greatly educational.
Right, thank you. Have a great weekend.
You do the same. The COO of a company called Cerebrum X. And he's always fascinating to talk to. I love to talk to this guy.
I like talking to
All
him.
right, time now for this hour's Cruise In calendar, and Conrad has that.
So the Memorial Day weekend cruise in at 3 Acres Food Truck Park in Santa Fe, Texas, is tonight at 6 p.m. Tomorrow is Cars and Coffee at Current a Christian Church off of Westheimer in Katy, and that's 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Also, tomorrow is the Cars and Cocktails at Little Woodrow's.
That's always a good combination.
Yeah. At Little Woodrow's off of TimberTech Avenue in Tomball, Texas. And then I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but the Shitbox Cruisers meet and greet at the First Texas Bank in Beaumont, Texas. Of course, it's got to be Beaumont.
That's something that you had something to do with, isn't
no,
it, Mars?
No, I didn't name
That's the name of the car
it. I
club.
would have named it Duty Box.
Or how about Ship Box with a P?
How about just skipping it?
That's what I do.
And then Sunday nights at Freddy's, Freddy's Steak Burgers off of 1960 in Eldridge. The car meetup at the Willis Discount Furniture.
What you talking about, Willis?
Off of Danville Street in Willis. And then Tomball Local Cars Meet at 2920 at the Coles is tomorrow night at 7 to 10 p.m.
And then next weekend is Chrome and Coffee at the Avalon Diner in the Fountains on 59 the Southwest Freeway as you approach 90A. That would be the exit to take. Thank you, sir. Time now for this hour's car review. I drove the 2023 Nissan Versa. This is the entry-level sedan from Nissan, available in 3 trim levels, S, SV, and SR. I had the top of the line SR. This is considered a subcompact automobile. Seats 5 people, including the driver. All new in 2020. Exterior features, cute with the Nissan nose and a sharp-looking grille. Does look good. Attractive alloy wheels. Great lighting front and back. Floating roof look. It's a paint feature on the roof.
Yep.
And what I liked about it, the great overall design for a subcompact. This car's come a long way. Trust me. Remember, when it first came out, you went, "Ooh, it was not."
The Versa, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was ugly.
It was
Tiny.
a gag.
Yeah.
Tiny.
Interior highlights: comfortable and good-looking cloth seats. Yay me!
Yep.
Because I love those
Mr. Cloth.
seats. I do. And the new cloth material in these cars, and all of them really, just awesome. Because they breathe.
And they're durable.
They're durable and they look good. They've zipped it up really good. A good looking dash with stitched accents on the dash pad. Yes, in the Versa. Wireless charge point for the phone. 8-inch color touch screen with great graphics. It's easy to use as well. As far as cargo or trunk room, adequate for its diminutive size, but also consider the fact, if it's important to you, the trunk opening, the opening itself is kind of small, so you're not going to get grandma's steamer in there.
Oh, steamer trunk.
Can you get grandma in there?
In the trunk.
In the trunk. Maybe we can.
It's junk in the trunk.
The junk in the trunk. What I liked, separate knobs and controls and pods for the radio and the air conditioning. What could use improvement? Nothing. Solid design through and through. 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine with a whopping 122 horsepower.
Oh, wow.
Not bad.
114 pound-feet of torque. But remember, the car doesn't weigh anything. It has a CVT transmission, which is the real key to getting the thing
Runs
off.
in the sweet spot.
Yeah, runs in the sweet spot all the time. Now, if you get the base model car, then you have the option of putting a 5-speed manual in it. Well, guess what I would choose?
For sure.
5-speed manual. Miles per gallon. Rated at 27 city, 35 for the highway for a combined of 30. I got 37.6 miles per gallon over 349.6 miles.
Thank you, Nissan.
Uh-huh. What I liked about it, fuel economy. What could use improvement? Well, I think, but that probably wouldn't sell any except to some idiot like me, a turbocharger option.
Oh.
For a touch more passing power. That would just be me, but how much more could it be to offer that? Because the engine compartment's got the room for it. You wouldn't have to change anything else. Just put a little turbo on there. Small one.
It's a little turbo.
A little bitty one. Ride and handling, sporty. What could use improvement? Add more content and offer more options. Of course, from there, up goes the price. Speaking of price, the base trim price was $2,215.
Not
The
bad.
base model price, just for the Versa, the bare bones Versa.
18.
You want to guess?
18.
18? Jeff says 18. You say
High 16s.
Mars is out of touch. But I will tell you that the base model price starts at $15,830.
Wow.
Hello, college.
Oh,
Hello,
I
high
win. It's the Price is Right.
No, but you were
Yay!
over. You went
I
over.
went over, yeah.
You're not spinning anything, buddy.
So competitors to the vehicle, the Hyundai Accent for $16,645, the Kia Rio for $16,750, and the Mitsubishi Mirage for $16,245.
Even
Nissan
at our
wins.
prices, it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But pretty impressive little vehicle. So if you're looking for something new with a warranty for your kid to go off to school with,
And that's that time of year.
yep, then there you go. There's a good suggestion for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is this hour's car review. I did have one story that I wanted to bring to you. And I don't know why I go to these stories, but I do because it catches my attention.
Mm-hmm.
A former AutoNation Honda Miami Lakes finance manager has been arrested for allegedly
one.
collecting more than $100,000 in deals for vehicles he never produced. Great guy. Carlos Ravelo, 51, was charged with 1 count of an organized scheme to defraud $50,000 or more, 2 counts of second-degree grand theft, 1 count of organized fraud for $50,000 or more, 8 counts of third-degree grand theft, 1 count of theft from the elderly, and 4 counts of writing a worthless check, according to the Miami-Dade County Corrections and Rehabilitation Department. Miami-Dade Police Department reports contain multiple instances of consumers reporting that they had bought vehicles for cash from Revelo, but never received the models or a full refund. Stick them up. AutoNation General Manager Armando Ebanez said the dealership has been investigating customer complaints as well, according to the police. Ebanez made it clear that Revelo was selling vehicles that belonged to the Honda dealership as if they were his private vehicles. Luis Quinones told authorities he bought what he thought was multiple AutoNation Honda vehicles in November 22 for a combined $50,000 in cash from Revelo, according to a police report. Quinones said he never received any of them, but Revelo only returned $45,000, so he charged him $5,000 for his time.
Processing fee.
You would think after the first $10,000 or $15,000 cash and
Shipping
no
and
car,
handling.
you could catch on to what's going on.
Bad dealer department.
They
Yeah.
need a dealership jail is what they need.
They-
Put all
they-
these people in.
But you know what? As
prison
many as
together.
employees as there are across the United States at dealerships everywhere, it's only a small fraction.
Yeah, it
but
is.
when something like that happens, you go, hello? Is anybody looking?
Yeah.
Where was the oversight?
Well, and you would
Buyer
think-
beware. I mean, who gives out $50,000 cash?
They go a fine tooth comb when you go to apply to buy a car. Well, where's the internal fine tooth comb?
Well, and you would think at AutoNation being such a national corporate group that they would have better control.
You would
Better
think.
security.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what bank hands out cash like that?
None
The
that
one
I
where
know
he's
of.
at.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
All right, time now for a quick break here on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Back after these messages. Everyone at the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, thank you for participating in the best cruise in around and look forward to seeing you again. You'll hear about the next cruise in date right here on In Wheel Time. Next time you're in the West Houston Energy Corridor area, be sure and stop in at the original Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex at I-10 and Highway 6 or the Katy location on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard. When passing through Beaumont or College Station, stop in and have Lupi's award-winning beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. There's always a celebration at Lupi Tortilla. Lupi Tortilla founder Stan Holt and his wife Sheila are winning racers on the NHRA drag racing circuit and have a collection of hot rods and classics that everyone appreciates. Look for them at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In. The date will be announced soon and will once again be held at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex on 99 and Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 and Katy. We'll give you all the details right here on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show and online. Donations benefit God's Garage. We'll see you then. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Real Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Real Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InRealTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Real Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. It is the In Real Time Car Talk Show. Coming up, we're going to talk to a pretty famous guy about the upcoming Pikes Peak Hill Climb. And I'm not going to do anything other than just tease it with that, okay?
I think that's good.
We also have coming up Conrad's This Week in Auto History, along with some of the stories making automotive news headlines. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We need more Jeff Zekin.
I don't know what that was.
I'm Don Armstrong. Glad that you could join us today. So let's just get right to our guest. His name is David Donahue, and you may recognize his last name. David, it's great to have you with us this morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So you're into the hill climb. Well, let's get a little background. I think that you're related to somebody that most of us older guys know about.
Yeah, my dad was Mark Donahue, Roger Penske's first driver, winner of the Indy 500 and many other championships, Trans Am, Can-Am, so on and so forth.
So you've had racing in your blood since birth.
Yes and no. My dad passed away when I was 8, and of course my mom swore up and down to never go racing. See how that ended up.
Yeah, we see that. And you have been pretty proactive in races, for the last many years. Give us a little background. I understand that you were in the Bridgestone Supercar Series for a while.
Yeah, that was really one of the first places I started racing professionally. I did some showroom stock races in the Firehawk Series before that, and then this was all in the early 90s. So I'm dating myself as an old guy.
Yeah, welcome to our world.
Yeah, and that kind of rolled into, I had some support from BMW, and that rolled into BMW North America semi-factory effort with the M3 in IMSA GT competition. And then I ended up, because I won the Supercar Championship with Bridgestone, Firestone wanted to kind of keep me under their wing, and Al Spire liked me, I guess, and introduced me to Bruce McCall and Roger, and well, I mean, I knew Roger, but they wanted me to do some Indy Lights races and start pursuing that. Unfortunately, it was around the same time the big split happened between CART and IRL. Yep. So things kind of went haywire there. But it opened the door for me to do some stuff with Pac West, the IndyCar team. They were starting a super touring team. So that opened the door for me to establish a relationship with Chrysler and Dodge with the Stratus Super Touring, and won a championship in that. That got kind of shelved when, as it always happens to racers, especially it seems to happen to me, the whole program got canned because Chrysler and Mercedes merged, or Mercedes bought Chrysler, however you want to look at it. And the mental state of Mercedes was race cars are rear-wheel drive. Of course, the Stratus wasn't. So it was retroactively canned, the whole program. So
Well, this all sounds very familiar. It's just like the broadcasting industry that I've been a part of since
AM radio is being canned.
Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. So you're not by yourself, just in a different genre. That's all. You also raced in the Craftsman Truck Series for a while.
There were always like one-off races, just a handful of races. I after the Viper in 98, 99, 2000, I was working with a NASCAR team and did some truck races and some what then was Busch races.
Right.
The truck races went better than the Busch races, and it was short-lived. So, and that's when I started racing for Brumos and Porsche. Was 2002 and 2003. Actually, 2003 I was testing in 2002 for the new DP category. And after winning Le Mans in 98 and then winning the Rolex 24 in 2009, which was a sort of a crowning achievement, I guess, with Brumos, being their last overall victory at the Rolex 24.
And so, obviously, very impressive past. Where are you? Where have you come from up to today?
What do you mean? I just said.
Well,
No, but I think today you're
from 2006 until today. Where are you? How did you get to 2006 to today? Is a ways.
Yeah, 2009. I mean, I stopped racing full time in 2012. I won the Rolex again in 13 on just a couple one-off races, and then I was working for Porsche Cars North America for 4 years. I was the 918 Spider client relationship manager. Then that position went away as all the cars were sold, and the customers were pretty happy at that point. And I did some work locally, and then I worked for a company in Rhode Island. But all along, since 2017, I was still working for Porsche Cars North America. I met the folks at Porsche Colorado Springs, and Joe Brenner and some of his compatriots asked me if I wanted to do the Pikes Peak hill climb with them. Of course, I always heard about Pikes Peak. I never really watched it or anything. I just said yes. And then I saw some video.
And then you said no.
And I was wondering, what the hell did I just do?
Exactly.
Well, you've had some pretty good success at Pikes Peak with first in class, a couple of second in class. So it's not like you just went and enjoyed the day. You went and won.
Yeah, I've won twice, although last year the visibility was so poor, the time was bad. It's weird that a win feels like a DNF. But with so much effort, I mean, we're there all month. I leave on Tuesday for a race towards the end of the month of June. So, I did a lot of preparation that first year on the simulator so that I knew where the corners went. If you ever watch a run, it's sort of dizzying not knowing what corner you're in, because so many of them look the same. You do a 25-mile-an-hour hairpin to the right, and the road just goes up to the left around the corner, and no trees, no nothing. So all you see is sky. And the same thing happens for the left turns, so the left-hand hairpins. So it was really important to understand the sequence of the corners. There's 156 corners. It's 12 and a half miles long. The start line's at 9,500 feet or 9,300 feet with the finish line at 14,000 feet. So air is really thin. In fact, in 2018, the car wouldn't even start. It was a GT3R race car, normally aspirated. It wouldn't even start without having the engine management system adjusted. And even after we got it started, we couldn't get to get off of idle without a couple more sending the ECU back to Porsche Motorsport.
And what class are you in now? What car are you driving up there for the competition this year?
I'm doing Time Attack 1. I've done that every year but one. I did run a car in Open once. We thought there was an opportunity in Open at one point with a car. It was a 1,300 horsepower GT3R. It didn't work out the way we wanted to after 4 engines. We just ran it. We ended up taking an engine out of the pre-owned lot at the dealership and sticking it in.
Now, there's a story you don't hear every day.
we run out of engines. It was an expensive year. But TA1 is basically modified street cars. We're starting with a really good base car, the GT2 RS Club Sport Porsche. So it's basically the street Porsche turned into a race car by the factory. And then we do significant other modifications for aerodynamics and power. So it's not, it's big power for some people, not huge power for you folks in Texas. We're making 800 wheel horsepower. I know I'm doing work with Hennessy, so the whole definition of power has changed for me.
Yeah.
When I'm running the F5 with 1800 horsepower. But the car's a proven solid competitor. You never know what you're going to get. This year we have a Alpine from Europe coming over. It's 1,000 pounds lighter than my car, and makes really good power. It seems to have pretty good aero and a really good driver. So we've got our work cut out for us.
How do you get 1,800 horsepower to the ground?
Well, they do it. I mean, that's what I thought.
Big fat tires and wings that push you into the ground.
Well, yeah, but still 1,800 horsepower and cars that virtually weigh nothing. It seems to me like nothing but tire spin all the way.
Yeah, you'd think, but I ran the car and it was. I gave laps in Arizona at a place called the Podium Club at Tessa, and it was shockingly good. You could get full throttle and just go through the gears. First gear, you're probably traction limited. Actually, they put a shorter ring and pinion in it because it was the road course version of the car. Yeah. I don't think you needed the shorter ring and pinion. It has so much torque because it's a 6.6 liter twin turbo V8, but the normally aspirated part of the 6.6 liter makes so much torque. And it would actually kind of pick up the front of the car and drive the front off.
Kind of hard to steer with the front tires off the ground.
Yeah. I'm exaggerating, but you did have to like pedal the throttle, not so much just for the rear, but for the front too. The car only weighs 3,000 pounds, so it's still quite a light car for something like that.
So you're running again the 2019 GT2 RS at Pikes Peak this year. Is it the same car? Because I see you've been driving that year, make, and model since 2020. Is it the same car each year, or is the car changed?
It was how do I describe this? It's a different VIN. It's the same car. 2020 and 2021 was a different VIN.
Okay.
So it's the same kind of car, but a different actual physical car. Since last year and this year. Brumos bought the car last year. It arrived really late. It got to the BBI Autosport shop in California, I think in the beginning of May last year. And they went hard at work to do the changeover of the aerodynamics, which is no small feat. I mean, it's really... we changed it to a center radiator instead of 3 radiators on the front. There's only one big one in the middle, and a giant splitter that sticks about a foot out of the front of the car, and a dual element rear wing. There's just a lot, different fenders, a front wheel, and tires, and brakes, and it just goes on and on the list. The basic car remains the same. Last year we didn't do anything with the engine. This year we rubbed on the engine a little bit. And hopefully we have a bit more of a powerful tool at our disposal.
So as wide-ranging as your dad was in motorsports, did he ever run Pikes Peak?
He never ran Pikes Peak, but ironically, he started his career with hill climbs, where I'm ending my career from hill climbs.
Yeah, and that's the point I was trying to make earlier, is that you've got all these wonderful awards and championships. Do you have an engineering background?
No, I don't. I went to school at Lehigh University, but I had entirely too much fun and basically declared declared my major based on what will let me qualify graduate in 4 years. So,
We can relate to that.
Yeah, some of us didn't quite go to what would graduate in 4 years.
Yeah.
My college was all a blur.
Some of us don't have backgrounds.
I don't know that I would have actually graduated if I didn't meet my now wife. So when we would study together, she would actually study. So
Go figure.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so, I studied it. It would really make her mad when I got a better grade in a class than she did when I studied all her notes and she told me how to do all the work.
This means she's a good teacher.
That's it.
Yeah, we've got a friend of ours is going up to Pikes Peak, and actually he's one of the officials up there, Richard Tomlin, and he's bringing
Mazda.
Excel Exoset or something like that. It's own kind of his own little home-built Mazda Miata with a LS7 in it and twin hair dryers on it.
Yeah,
It's a beast.
it truly is.
Yeah,
What
you
kind
really need to have forced induction.
Yeah.
There's just so much power loss with a normally aspirated car up there.
What is your everyday driver?
I have a Taycan.
Yeah, it's a Taycan. Well, of course he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be a Porsche. Yeah. Is Porsche everything that they say that it is? You know, I've never had one. I've actually never driven one, but I hear all these wonderful things, and I'll tell you that all of the surveys, they are the top car builder. When the car leaves the factory at Porsche, it is as good as any car can be in a mass-produced car.
Yeah, they're really hard to modify because you're spending the money on all that modification to begin with. So if you want to get more power out of it, it's going to cost you a lot of money because they're so well refined.
It's already there.
They've with the 918. The 918 was $1 million car, and I hit around that the engineers had an endless budget and a whole lot of fun because the PDK transmission, which shifts automatically, was so intuitive. Things like that. You know the engineers. If you're half throttle, you don't want to rev it out the red line, right? You kind of want to shift it at some RPM that's a little bit high, but not really high. And they just had it mastered. It would just shift naturally wherever you wanted. And the feedback through the chassis and the steering and the brakes, everything was, it's so communicative compared to other cars. And I didn't appreciate that until I drove a bunch of other cars at a racetrack at a club day, and I was doing some instruction, and I was just shocked that you going down pit lane, you know what you got in the Porsche, and many of the other cars you needed a couple laps of mistakes to know what not to do.
Wow.
So the engineers they did a lot of research.
And they're car guys.
Yeah, a lot of fun research.
Yeah, they know what they want out of it, and they make it happen.
Especially when you don't have a budget.
Exactly.
Well, I kid around. I'm sure they had a budget. I just
Well, David, it's great talking to you and reminiscing about the past and your history. Great to get to know you, and also looking forward to seeing how things play out for you on the Pikes Peak Hill Climb coming up.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, and we look forward to talking with you after the hill climb and see how things went for you mentally.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You have a good day.
Man, a month long. He's going up there for a
month. And
Who would have thought?
And be involved in all of that for an entire month.
Well,
I'd be beside myself.
look what he
and
does.
out of wind.
He's representing Porsche, so you have to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
when you talk Brumos, you're talking top tier Porsche
Exactly.
operation in the world.
You're not
just
you're
here in
not
the
second
States.
hand in it.
Yeah.
You're not shade tree in it.
All right.
Mars.
What are you trying to say?
What are you talking about?
Hey, we'd love to hear from you anytime. All you have to do is shoot us an email. Our email address is info@inwheeltime.com. Time now for This Week in Auto History, and Conrad has that.
What?
So in 1903, George Wyman became the first motorcyclist to make a transcontinental trip across America. Think about that. He's on a motorcycle driving across America before there were really any roads. A 1.25 horsepower, 90 cc California motorcycle designed by Roy Marks. It'd be like crossing the country
On
on
your
a Honda,
Briggs and Stratton.
on a Honda 90, right?
Yeah.
Wyman's arduous journey started in San Francisco on May 16th, and it took him 50 days and ended in New York City on July 6th.
I'll bet his butt was real sore.
From San Francisco?
I didn't say
That's
that.
where he
You
started.
said that. I didn't go there.
In 1903, David Dunbar Buick, former plumbing inventor and manufacturer, incorporated the Buick Motor Company and formed it in 1902 in Detroit, Michigan. In 1956, General Motors opens its brand new $125 million GM Technical Center in Warren, Michigan. Today, the Technical Center is one of the landmarks of the 20th century architecture. GM spent $1 billion renovating it in 2003. And do you know Mary Barrigan made $29 million last year?
All right.
Sorry.
That kind of looks like a wind tunnel. The configuration.
Well, there's
the
a
way
wind. There's a wind tunnel there.
Yes, but
Switch
the
to
way-
the next picture. It's kind of a bigger view
There
of
you
what
go.
it looks like after the renovation. So that's the whole complex there.
I didn't know they had a football field there.
And then up in the upper left corner, you can see that red building
But
again.
I mean, just the initial impression of the design looks like a wind tunnel.
And then in 1958, in Monaco, France, Team Lotus makes its Formula One debut at the Monaco Grand Prix, the opening event for that year's European racing season. Over the next 4 decades, Team Lotus will go on to become one of the most successful teams in Formula One racing history. Jim Clark won his first World Drivers' Championship in 1963 driving a Lotus, beginning the golden age of Lotus racing. Both Clark and Graham Hill both won multiple Formula One titles. Clark also drove a Lotus to victory in the Indy 500 in 1965. And then years later, virtuosos like Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, and Alessandro Zanardi all represented the Lotus team brand in Formula One.
Monaco
By the
this
way,
weekend, too.
That Lotus is in the Henry Ford.
That car?
Yeah.
Okay. In 1981, the 20 millionth Volkswagen Beetle was produced in Puebla, Mexico. And that's actually in the museum in Wolfsburg right now, is that silver Volkswagen. In 2005, Toyota Motor Company announces its plans to produce a gasoline-electric hybrid version of its best-selling Toyota Camry sedan, built at the company's Georgetown, Kentucky plant. The Camry became the first hybrid model to be manufactured in the United States. And then in 2007, Los Angeles, California, is the first stop on a cross-country road show, but for the Smart car, the Smart 4.2 in the USA. And actually, I think that has kind of fallen under the Mercedes umbrella as well.
It needs all the help it can get.
Did you ever get one as a company car?
I did. No, not as a company car, as a press car,
As
yes.
a press, I meant as a press car.
There are some Mercedes dealerships that use those as golf carts to take folks out on the
On the tour looking for the lot.
Yep.
Did you ever have one?
I never had.
Smart car?
I was never so scared on the freeway in my entire life until I got into that one.
You could literally put that in the back of a pickup truck.
Well, that's not. You know what? We just need to move on. That's not even worth the
It's
words.
an automobile seed is what it is. You plant that and you get a car.
Okay.
It's just bad.
That's this week in auto history.
Well, you know,
Glad I brought back such wonderful memories for you, Don.
You always do.
all that is literally, really is a grocery getter. If you're traveling under 40 miles an hour, okay. If you got to have something that looks weird,
It's a golf cart with air
drives
conditioning.
weird, and all of the things around weird, then that's the car. Mars, you're not saying anything.
And then some other manufacturers followed it with equally weird cars. Remember Lexus did the IQ.
If you're going to do that, why not just get yourself a motorcycle and a backpack?
Electric car. Get an electric car.
I did drive a smart car at one of the events of the Texas Motor Speedway.
Are you bragging or what?
Now, I was fortunate that I didn't have to get out on the highway in it. I think it was like 57, 58 miles an hour, as fast as that car would go.
They timed you with a calendar.
They probably did.
Calendar. That's it. I never understood that car.
Yeah, me either. I was never a fan of it, and they
they-
sold quite a few of them early on, and you occasionally see one on the highway here now, every now and then. I would feel totally unsafe driving in that because you're just
you would think that
looking up at an F-150.
You would think that car would be like $5,000. It's not.
Oh, no.
It's relatively expensive for what you get.
Oh,
Yeah,
when
it's
they
like-
were new, they
it's
were
like
in the
half
mid
a car.
to high 20s.
Yeah, you only get the front seat. But, when they first came to Texas, they made a big deal in Austin about, you could rent them
Well,
for an hour.
surprise,
Austin
surprise.
weird.
Yeah. But they cars like that just don't work in Texas.
Thank you. Let's do Sold Cars Roundup from Hemmings this week. We always have a good time with that. This is for you, Jeff.
All right.
And Conrad.
Oh, boy.
1993 Cadillac Alante. Car that was built in Italy and shipped to the United States or via an aircraft.
Right. It's custom
In
built
pieces.
747.
It sold this past week for an
75.
auction price of $11,550.
And 93?
A 93.
93 was probably, if there was, forgive me, the best year for an Alante.
Uh-huh.
That would have been the
I'm with
best
you.
year for
I'm
the
with
Alante because that was the only year the Alante was available with the North Star engine.
Well, you missed it. You missed your
I didn't.
opportunity.
No, I didn't.
Jeff missed his opportunity.
No, that's all right.
1987 Chevrolet El Camino. Pretty
87?
good. 87. Pretty good looking car. Had the Monte Carlo front end on it. $21,242.
That's a lot.
That. I was thinking less than that.
It's a lot for that year.
1974 Chevrolet Corvette. Week in the britches. 1974.
174 horsepower.
How much money do you think it sold for?
18 grand.
14.
Yeah, I was going to say 14.
$8,100.
Oh!
And the owner was happy to get that much for it.
Probably. Here's one. This
Means
is
it didn't sell it.
this
probably
is
it.
this is mine. A 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS.
Oh, yeah.
How much? A convertible,
Wait.
by the way.
Oh.
So it wouldn't. So it's not. The
We don't know what
454, it's the
engine was
390.
We don't know
down,
You have to
anything.
assume it's a 396 because it's a convertible.
And it's a SS.
You're assuming a
I'm going
lot
to say
there, buddy.
28.
I'll say 50.
I'll say 32.
$135,345.
I only missed it by 100,000.
Can you imagine all the smart cars you could get with that?
Here's Jeff's car. And literally, what year is your car?
13.
This is a 2005 Cadillac SRX, silver,
It's a Gen 1.
and it sold for
$6 grand.
$13,388.
That's too much.
Way
money.
more than it
Yeah.
was worth.
Let me see that.
A 1969 Chevy Camaro. Now, it says a Z28 on the badging on it. We don't know whether it's a clone or what. We don't know anything other than it's green, got white racing stripes on it. 69 Z28, $69,300. A 1958 Chevrolet 3200.
That's the Apache with the quad headlights.
Would you? I don't know as if this
Yeah,
is the
but
Apache.
3200,
What kind of shape
It's a
is it in?
step side. So how
What
much?
shape is
That's
it
the
in?
3/4 ton.
You never know.
Well, I mean, does it look good on
yeah,
that?
well, these
Pretty
all
decent.
look good. you
No,
know.
I'm
This
gonna
one here
say
is
30.
$8,000.
Oh, that's cheap.
No, that's because it's a 3/4 ton or 1 ton. One
Okay.
of the two.
How about a 77 Ford F-150 for $6,300?
Too much.
And a Nash Metropolitan sold for $4,000. I wouldn't give you $4 for it, but whatever. A 1950 Buick 41. I think my grandfather had one of these. $6,500 at auction.
And I
and a
bet your mom
49,
did Smoky Burnouts.
a
with
49
one tire.
Willis Jeepster for
What you talking
$30,451. Well, that's it for this hour of the In Will Time Car Talk Show. Hour number 3 starts after this break. Everyone at the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, thank you for participating in the best cruise in around and look forward to seeing you again. You'll hear about the next cruise in date right here on In Wheel Time. Next time you're in the West Houston Energy Corridor area, be sure and stop in at the original Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex at I-10 and Highway 6 or the Katy location on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard. When passing through Beaumont or College Station, stop in and have Lupi's award-winning beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. There's always a celebration at Lupi Tortilla. Lupi Tortilla founder Stan Holt and his wife Sheila are winning racers on the NHRA drag racing circuit and have a collection of hot rods and classics that everyone appreciates. Look for them at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In. The date will be announced soon and will once again be held at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex on 99 and Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 and Katy. We'll give you all the details right here on the In Real Time Car Talk Show and online. Donations benefit God's Garage. We'll see you then. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Wheel Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InWheelTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise Inn, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Wheel Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. Live from Studio A and inside the Sugar Shack World Headquarters, it's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Somebody's got a red face over here. Coming up, we talk to Hugh Mann from the Houston Community College about its EV curriculum. You listening, EV fans? It's for you. Jeff has a segment on USA road trips and famous driving destinations. Conrad will have the racing calendar and the car clinic. And we'll also have the stories making automotive news headlines this week. We're going to stick it in fourth gear just ahead on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show.
You're going to plug it in.
Along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Glad you could join us today. Day before the Indy 500.
Monaco Grand Prix and the World 600.
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
The Coca-Cola
Is it still
600.
Coca-Cola 600?
Yes,
Why can't I hear you, Jeff? Okay, I can't. No, there you go.
There I am.
Okay. All right, our guest now is Hugh Mann, Houston Community College of Automotive Technology and their electric vehicle curriculum. Hugh, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Is this the first of, I assume, many classes to come with electric vehicles?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me back, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're still, we hadn't rolled out the first class yet. We're still developing it. You know, it seems here lately, it's on the education side, momentum seems to have picked up. More people are calling and inquiring and having interest and wanting to put programs together. So we are developing the first class right now, and it'll be started and rolled out kind of as a continuing education program. You know, we're building multiple sizes to fit different customer base, whether it be a 1 day, 6-8 hour class to a 2 or 3 day program. But and it's kind of it's a mix. It's a hybrid vehicle and electric vehicle class, kind of put into one to start with.
And when does it start?
We're probably about a month out from actually flipping the switch and offering the first class. We got a couple companies out that have approached us that have kind of stepped up to, hey, we want to be the guinea pig. We want to do the first class, and we're putting together some stuff to train mostly their technicians, existing technicians that are already out there that are just trying to get more knowledgeable on the EV and the hybrid vehicles and how to deal with them, how to evaluate them, how to be safe with them.
Are you getting any support from any of the OEMs?
Not a lot. You know, like with most OEM training, they kind of have their own program. They want their guys to go to their own program. What we're focusing on is a lot of the aftermarket shop areas, people like CarMax, Firestone, NTB, some organizations that have fleets. You know, we work real close with the city of Houston, doing some training for them and working out some of theirs, along with we've even been in discussions with Metro and doing some stuff with them. Metro just took delivery of their first fully electric bus, so they're looking to do
probably
some
looking
training
for
there
a place
with
to
some
plug it in.
Very possible.
Yeah, I can't. So would the charger be the same as a regular car charger with that thing that you plug in there?
A huge, big.
It's a great big plug.
thing.
I mean,
Great big plug.
well, I mean, would it be a great big plug?
Probably a thicker cord or thicker.
I don't know.
Cable.
I mean,
It
I'm
depends
just
on how
asking.
many- just depends on how much power you're trying to push
Exactly.
into it in a period of time.
Well, there's that, but I can imagine a bus powered by electric motors and batteries. Can you imagine how much it weighs without that?
Well, Hummer's
Yeah, but
9,000 pounds.
It's the voltage and stuff that's going to make the difference. And I'll be willing to bet you a 240, like a supercharger, is still used, and it's going to be that bigger 240 type plug.
So, hey, Hugh, out at Houston Community College, to do EV training, they've got to make a pretty decent investment in your training program, not just in equipment, but in the infrastructure of the shop, of the power sources to do recharging and stuff, as well as the safety. You know, I know my thing is, first thing you need to do when you learn how to work on an electric vehicle is how to pull the guy off that got bit. Whether you use a 2x4 or the swimming hook.
Well, they got to understand the value of it too. What's the ROI for the school?
Yep. Well, I think the return on investment for the school will be pretty good because there's nobody else out there doing EV training to speak of except
Outside
the
of the
OEMs.
OEMs,
yeah.
Which means that the independent aftermarket shops have only one, and that'll be your program, will only have one resource to go get trained on. I know there's some independent training that goes on it, but not very much. So it'll be nice to see a regular program that independent shops can go to learn about their EV program, their EV vehicles.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there's some private companies out there doing some training. I don't know of any of the other local community colleges or local colleges that have any programs in place yet. I'm pretty sure we're all working on them. The biggest thing with the big trucks and the buses, from discussions I've had with a couple other people, is, and this is one of the things that really hampers the commercial industry from going fully electric, is the time frame it would take to charge one.
Right.
You can't really do the rapid charge on them like you can a car because of the power that they take, the heat generated to do some type of rapid charge. Just you wouldn't be able to do it. They basically would have to park overnight and charge at a longer time frame, which kind of limits them to a regional type delivery truck or something that's going to stay close. I don't see them going over the road anytime soon.
And to do a fleet of buses, let's say you're trying to charge 30 or 40 buses overnight, you might as well roll in a
Generator.
an electric generated train and use the generator on that to charge all the rest of them, because that's the only thing that's
I was thinking about bringing up the South Texas Nuclear Power Project.
There you go.
Just hook it up to that.
And for a rapid charge on a rapid transit.
Rapid charge on a rapid transit. I don't know if there's anything rapid about the transit, but used to be.
So which location is your program going to run out of? I know you guys have the one off of Airline, and then you also have one up in the northeast side of town.
Yeah, the continuing ed, we'll start it probably at our what we call our North Forest locations, the one over off more northeast, off East Little York and Homestead area. It's our newer facility. We got a little extra room over there, so it'll be started there. Eventually, we'll offer it at both locations.
And were the Prius cutaway cars, were those donated to you from Toyota, or how did you guys acquire those?
I've got some video I'm going to pull up while you're talking about that, Hugh.
Oh, no problem. No, actually, we purchased those from a private training provider. They started making them. I think other than their demo one that they first built, I think we got the first two, and they are they're second gen Priuses. The neat thing about them is, obviously, they did kind of cut half the car away. In the pictures, you can see on the back side, there's one where you can see the hybrid battery. The hybrid battery that's mounted out in the open is basically gutted. There's nothing in it. It's just for identification and explaining
just a casing.
Correct. Right in front of it, you'll see the cover under the actual hybrid battery that's still in the car. And then on the front, they did the same thing. We got an inverter that's mounted up on top of the engine compartment for identification, and then the real inverter still in it. So these cars, even though they're cut away and got spare, dummy parts out there, they're fully operational. You can get in them, drive them wherever you want to drive them. We can still hook all the diagnostic equipment up to them and show how and put bugs in them and so forth and so on. But it's nice because if you take a live car, you're always explaining to the students, about the battery, about all the orange cables, about all the connections, but you can't really show them on a live car until you disable it. With these dummy parts on them, it's easier for the students to be able to take an inverter apart and see all the components inside an inverter without the danger of the high voltage.
Now,
Right.
I know there's some people out there that will teach people how to service individual cells in the Prius hybrid battery pack. Will that be something in your program, or is it pretty much swap a pack?
It could be in the future. Right now, it's just swapping out the battery itself, changing the battery. Our first class, the first 1 day class, primarily is a safety class more than anything. How to be safe, where the danger parts are, and then we get into some basic testing of how to tell whether a battery's or whether the hybrid battery is good, if it's good, bad, if it has an issue, and then swapping that battery out, and just kind of covering the basics, the difference between a 12 volt and the high voltage side and so forth.
Yeah, we had, was it last week? We had a company on that actually is selling a device to basically sniff the battery, to simplify it, to sniff the battery for outgassing.
Yeah.
And that outgassing is an indication of the probability of a thermal runaway. As the battery gets hot and expands, that outgassing, their device sniffs for the outgassing of it. And a pretty interesting interview I thought we had with him last week, because it's a technology I think there's a real reason to have. And I know electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles are truly a major part of the auto industry right now, and in the future are going to be even a bigger part. So to see you guys get involved in putting together a training program for the independent shops, I think is pretty important. And yeah, starting with safety is going to be the first thing. I remember when the Nissan Leaf first came out, I'd go into a Nissan store and they would get out the police tape and the stanchions, and they'd surround the car with police tape and stanchions.
That was because you were there.
But just to make sure they kept everybody away, because if that electrical system gets a hold of you, you're gonna stick, and that's where the hook or the ply or 2x4 comes in, is trying to pry you off of it.
Well, I heard your interview last week with that gentleman. It was interesting. I started to do a little research into that myself, based off y'all's interview with him. And we kind of got those stanchions too that we put around the cars, and not only explaining the safety of where to touch, what not to touch, and on top of that, we even have a safety protocol in place of a lockbox to put the key fob in, and explain to them how far the key fob's got to be away from the car, so it can't, the car can't see the signal and can't energize the car while you're trying to work on it. And so forth. And also in the slideshow, I had some pictures in there, some electrical training boards that we've purchased.
Yep.
Those are made by a company called Lucas Newell. They're out of Germany. The first one is a hybrid electric vehicle simulator training board. It'll actually simulate 5 different powertrains, from a series hybrid to a parallel hybrid, series parallel hybrid, full electric and hydrogen. It's built where we can put bugs in the car. It's got its own built-in scan tool built into the board. It's designed to be used to train and to train guys for the ASE L3 electrical vehicle test. It's also the only electric vehicle training board that's endorsed and approved for Skills USA. It's what they use in their national contest for testing students on electrical vehicle diagnosis and troubleshooting. And then the second board that I had a picture of in there was also made by the same company, Lucas Newell. We got a couple of those, and it's a first responder training board. It's simply set up. It's got 4 or 5 scenarios that you can pick condition-wise to train first responders where to disconnect power and how to disconnect power in different areas within the system.
Yeah, because if they're going into something that's they're going to have to get out the jaws of life, they've got to be very cautious about where they start touching stuff in a hybrid vehicle or in a full EV. And it can hurt them as well as whoever's stuck in the car. So, well, cool. Glad to see Houston Community College is kind of leading the industry here, reaching out to do something for the independent shops to get them more skills and experience working on the EVs. And, starting with safety makes sense. And we've had Dean on the show a number of times, and I know Mike, and I've known Mike Cleveland for quite some time. He's been a fan of the show as well. So glad to see you guys are out there growing the industry and doing what we can to help the industry here in town. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, and we appreciate y'all giving us an opportunity and the platform to come let everybody know what's available and what we're doing out there.
Hey, Hugh, don't y'all have an open house coming up pretty quick?
Actually, we do on June 10th. I think June 10th at our North Forest location, which is the one at 6010 East Little York. It's on the corner of Little York and Homestead. It's a campus-wide kind of a re-grand opening again, but it's for the whole campus, not just the automotive, but that is where our second automotive location is. And we'll be doing tours and some demonstrations. We got a paint simulator we'll have out there where you can simulate painting. You're doing some paint and body painting, body work, and we'll do some other demos and have some little 1 hour, half hour, 1 hour seminars on vehicle inspection and maintenance, as well as they'll be doing other things with other programs. That same location, we teach welding, HVAC. We actually have a audio recording program there where we actually have a full recording studio at that location. And all that'll be open to the public for tours. And again, there'll be other seminars there as well within the other programs. So I believe it runs from about 9 to 1 in the afternoon. Everybody's welcome to come out and take a look and check out the new campus.
Very good.
These graduating seniors need to go.
Thank you very much. Houston Community College of Automotive Technology, Hugh Mann. Or human.
Here you go.
If we say it fast. All right. In-wheel time race
I'm
card.
sure he hasn't heard that.
The in-wheel time race card is sponsored by Texas Nostalgia Modified Production.
And this is a racing weekend.
Make it quick.
Make it quick.
Well, because he's got a big thing here.
So it's we start in the morning on Sunday with the Monaco Grand Prix, and then in the early afternoon it goes to the Indy 500.
Yes.
And then in the evening is the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte. So there's going to be about 1,400 miles of racing on Sunday.
In 1,400 hours of coverage.
The same thing. I will be there.
2,800 hours of coverage.
And with that, I'll give you Mr. Jeff Zekin.
Oh,
Yes, Jeff
thank you,
Zekin's got a
Conrad.
very special,
Jeff.
Oh, boy, that's
little
great.
special feature for
On the road again.
USA Road Trip's famous driving destinations.
We play a little Willie Nelson, but
No,
we're not
going to
allowed
play
to.
any music. We're not going to play any music.
We ain't playing no damn
Well,
music.
I want to tell you that many will say that going on an epic road trip is the best.
Where's the
And
opening,
really the
Where's
o-
the opening screen?
I already flicked it.
Come on, Mars,
gotta
you
pay
need to
attention,
keep up.
dude.
I'm taking notes.
The only way to experience America, this is the land of open road, roadside attractions, and roadside diners. The first one, which this is California Route 1, Pacific Coast Highway 1.
In there.
It starts in San Diego and it ends in Mendocino, California. It is a 656-mile trek, camping in Big Sur if you wish to do that. It's for the ultimate California road trip. Consider driving the entire stretch of Pacific Route 1. This epic route, which should take at least a week, some people take 2, brings you to some gorgeous coastline and small, bustling little towns.
Stunningly beautiful
It is.
drive.
It's gorgeous.
You
Absolutely.
can stop in at the Hearst Castle just north of Cambria.
You can. The next one we have is Route 66. What a classic. It's a classic road
Get
trip
your
across
case.
America. It starts in Chicago, Illinois, and ends in Santa Monica, California.
Or if you do the
And that's what the
reverse.
sign looks like in Chicago,
It
Illinois,
does.
right?
It does. And it actually takes Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and of course it ends in California. It's a 2,448-mile trip, and this is the typical Americana, or what they say is Merca, in the United States. Over the years, Route 66 has been immortalized by Hollywood films, musicians, and novels. One of the best parts of Route 66 is watching the landscape shift from the Great Plains and the Mississippi wetlands into the deserts and mountains of West Coast roadside landscapes. Entering Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona can be surreal, and there's no place like the American Southwest.
And there's all kinds of museums about Route 66 along the drive as well that you could plan on stopping in.
Don't spoil it. They got to take the trip to do it.
Well, we had one of the Route 66 museums on the show last year.
The next one we have, we're going to go to the other coast, and this is Florida A1A. This is the Overseas Highway. I don't know if I would like to do this, but I'm kind of afraid. It's a 340-mile trip. It's all beaches. It starts in Amelia Island, Florida, and it ends in the Florida Keys. It's a 340-mile distance, like we said, driving across, Mike, what? The Caribbean Sea. Florida A1A runs the entire length of the Atlantic Floridian coast and further into the Caribbean Sea. Portions that connect the mainland to Florida Keys, which they call it the Florida Keys Scenic Byway, used to be called the Transway. You can't do that anymore.
But it can be by, it just can't be trans.
Considered engineering marvel is one of the highlights of the trip. Gliding across the Caribbean and
Have
the
a
likes
gale
of
ride.
Ernest Hemingway's home and Key West. You can also find some more smaller towns, quieter towns like Cocoa Beach and Vero Beach. There's still surfing out there. I got a friend of mine that's from Cocoa Beach. He said it's absolutely gorgeous. Someday we'll do that. But these are trips you got to take for the summertime. The next one, which is my favorite, another route, but this is Route 61. It's called the Blues Highway. It's some of the most significant musical sites in America. It starts in New Orleans and it ends in Wyoming, Minnesota. It goes through Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, and of course it ends in Minnesota. It's a 1,400-mile trip, and again, it's Merca. Route 61 is called the Blues Highway because it's been part of so many American musicians' lives. This means the greatest blues singers, rockers, country wailers at one point have been on this highway to drive to a road or drive to a gig on this road. There's the B.B. King Museum, Heartbreak Hotel, and some of the most hallowed music venues, concert halls in the country are along this route. The infamous crossroads where Robert Johnson supposedly sold his soul to the devil for fame at the intersection of Highway 1 and Highway 8.
Sounds like a Charlie's Daniels band.
Yeah, I think
Music.
so. Yep, years ago.
But we're not allowed to play it.
Not allowed to play it. That's right.
No, we're not.
Well,
And
it's
I control that over here, so it ain't getting on the air.
And the last one, folks, look in your backyard. You can take a day trip, and I reference this because when
My
we went
backyard
to
does not look like that.
when we went
I can only
to
imagine.
New Braunfels, coming back, Kathy and I had a great time stopping in all these little towns, stopping in all the little barbecue places, buying all the little knickknacks and things. New Braunfels, anything. But this is called Texas Hill Country. It's just west of Austin. The distance depends on you and where you want to go, Conrad. It's not just oil fields and deserts in Texas. You've got greenery. You've got a lot of biking trails, hiking trails, mountain off-road stuff that you can do. Tasty barbecue. Consider a trip in your backyard. I'm looking forward to go to Granbury. It's going to be a blast.
I agree. Yep. Well, thank you,
And there
sir.
you have it.
Well, that's
Go
great.
enjoy the road this summer.
I have an Indy 500 feature that I want to do now because I know how the show goes, and we'll run out of time before I get time to do it. Okay? Green flag that starts the Indy 500, scheduled for Sunday, May 28th, holds extra significance this year. This is from Automotive News. The 33 open-wheel cars will be the cleanest, greenest, and potentially meanest in the 107-year history of the classic American race. Indy cars will be burning 100% renewable biofuel using carbon-neutral motor oil and orbiting the oval on tires made of recycled plastics.
Isn't this
Even
important?
some of the support trucks delivering supplies to the track will be electric-powered. Now, you can poo-poo this if you want, but this is the way that it
You're gonna be
is.
running on poo-poo?
You just need to shut up and listen. This year, two 2.2-liter twin-turbo V6 engines will power Indy cars, one made by Honda, the other by Chevrolet. Now, do you understand the significance of 2.2 liters?
Yeah. Tiny guys.
Mm-hmm. Both often run at the limit of 12,000 RPM.
Just a little bit bigger than a big bottle of Coke.
Singer.
Cranking out more than 750 horsepower as they reach speeds topping 230 miles an hour on the 2.5-mile oval. The sidewalls of the Firestone Firehawk tires that will be used in 5 races taking place on street tracks, such as the Detroit Grand Prix, feature a rubber made from guyule, pronounced waiuli, a woody shrub found in the deserts of the Southwest. Waiuli is probably best known as a source for natural latex used for gloves and medical devices. For IndyCar races run on oval tracks such as the Indy 500, the second version of the Firehawk tire contains recycled consumer plastics. It's made with recycled monomers that create a synthetic rubber and is resistant to wear. Those are just some of the highlights, but I wanted to get those stories in there for all you tree huggers out there. So it's supposed to be a carbon-neutral race environment at the Indy 500.
Running on methanol.
Well, and they've got the Indy organization has the technology to do that. It's not just them. They've got all these other resources that they can do that with.
Wait till they do the Daytona 500 with EV.
I'm sorry I cut you off because of all the fumbling with the microphone you're doing over there. Well, that's it for Conrad. See you later.
See you, buddy.
One other story. Hyundai Kia still under legal pressure after settling lawsuits over car thefts. Despite Hyundai and Kia's agreement to a $200 million settlement on a class action lawsuit, the automakers still face a heap of lawsuits and pressure from influential stakeholders. Reaching the settlement that litigants welcomed last week is only one step for the automakers. They're still defendants in numerous lawsuits brought by entities seeking damages they claim resulted from Hyundai Kia's decision not to include engine immobilizers as standard equipment on 9 million of their older vehicles on the road. Legal tangle was sparked by a wave of car thefts last year after a TikTok video demonstrated how to hotwire Hyundai and Kia vehicles that lack an anti-theft device. To defuse the situation, Kia and Hyundai have offered owners of 8.3 million of the vehicle's software updates that will enhance the alarms. It also will be working to get steering wheel locks to owners whose vehicles are ineligible for the upgrade. It's a big deal.
Big deal.
A big deal.
Remember?
Yep. Remember? All right. The In Wheel Time Car Talk show is available 24/7 through the iHeartRadio app. Just look for In Wheel Time Car Talk. We also video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. Podcasts are at your fingertips on over a dozen of the most popular podcast outlets. The In Wheel Time Car Talk show continues right after this quick break. Everyone at the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, thank you for participating in the best cruise in around and look forward to seeing you again. You'll hear about the next cruise in date right here on In Wheel Time. Next time you're in the West Houston Energy Corridor area, be sure and stop in at the original Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex at I-10 and Highway 6 or the Katy location on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard. When passing through Beaumont or College Station, stop in and have Loopy's award-winning beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. There's always a celebration at Loopy Tortilla. Loopy Tortilla founder Stan Holt and his wife Sheila are winning racers on the NHRA drag racing circuit and have a collection of hot rods and classics that everyone appreciates. Look for them at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In. The date will be announced soon and will once again be held at the Loopy Tortilla Tex-Mex on 99 and Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 and Katy. We'll give you all the details right here on the In Real Time Car Talk Show and online. Donations benefit God's Garage. We'll see you then. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Real Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Real Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InRealTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Real Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. Live, it's the In Real Time Car Talk Show on our Saturday morning live edition, 8 to 11. This is the last half hour. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up, Conrad's going to have a special edition of the In Real Time Car Clinic to get you educated on what's going on in the internals of engines.
You had asked about piston rings. I did that last week, so this week we're going to talk pistons.
Good. I like that. We'll also give you a couple of auto news stories in this half hour. We think you'll enjoy it. We invite you to stay tuned. Howdy. Along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. The holiday stuff. Jeff's birthday spanking.
I'm going to a party later.
Jeff's birthday spanking. So you can get that on the subscription side of InRealTime.com.
That's behind the scenes.
Make sure you send $10,000 to my secret account and wherever.
So every week we have Conrad do a thing called the In Real Time Car Clinic. It gives you a little bit more detailed information about certain things about cars from the rear end, speaking of rear ends, all the way up to the front bumper. And so Conrad and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I said, why don't we get more specific about certain engine things? And I brought up piston rings. And I thought that piston ring thing was very interesting. I ran across a story about the new evolution of piston rings and the material makeup of them, the size of them, the tension stuff, all of the stuff about piston rings and what they do. And it's not just one ring. But this week we're going to talk about pistons. Right. And there are all sorts of different types of pistons depending on the usage.
Right. You know, if you kind of go back into the 50s and 60s, compression ratios were, 8-9 to 1. in the later 60s might have got up to 10 or 11 to 1. And then we've moved on up into the new cars where you might see as high as 18 to 1 compression. Well, one of the first pistons that were out there used was what was called a flat top piston. Yep. There's nothing on top of this piston. It's basically flat. And in some instances, there may be some valve reliefs in the piston, and that's just to give a little bit of clearance for the valves as they open and close. And they'll cut these little notches in the valve in the top of the piston for that valve relief. This is a very common looking piston out there in the industry. Was a very common looking piston in the industry. And then you know
what year was that? What year?
Probably
60s,
mid 60s.
Yeah.
And then the Hemi. And the hemispherical combustion chamber
changed it all.
We've got valves that are on both sides of
massive
the piston.
Ones.
Massive, huge valves. And in this case, I imagine this is probably a top fuel because there's, it's so highly domed and that it's really a high compression and pretty big reliefs cut in the piston.
Yep.
When I see on that Conrad, I see multiple slots for multiple rings.
Yeah, that's got four compression,
wow.
3 compression rings and 1 oil ring on it. So that's the Hemi. The next one would be the wedge engine. So you always heard the wedge engine as the Mopar 440s, maybe even the Chevrolet big blocks. So there would be basically a wedge on top of the piston with valve reliefs cut into it. Again, that lift off of the base of the piston is all about increasing the compression ratio, filling up the combustion chamber with metal to raise the compression ratio on the engine.
So you're filling up the volume with something.
With metal.
Right.
Yeah, right. And then again the notched or the notched piston was probably the most popular over time. Well, now they've moved to gasoline direct injected engines, and the gasoline direct injected engine, the piston has a different function where what they want is the fuel injector sprays into that what I'll call the bathtub right there in the center of that piston. And what it's trying to do when the injection sprays into there, it's trying to bounce it all back up into, now I'm a Star Trek fan, not a Star Wars fan. So in Star Trek, they'd shoot the photon torpedo, the little ball of energy. So in the GDI engine, they're trying to create a little ball of air fuel mixture
right there at the spark plug.
Right there at the tip of the spark plug, which is a wonderful way to do it. The issue with it is it means all of that outside area gets very hot because it runs very, very lean. And in that, so if you looked at how the injector sprays on top of the piston on a GDI engine, you'll see that the injector sprays into the middle of the piston and it brings that whole air-fuel ratio power ball right to the tip of the spark plug. So when the spark plug ignites, it's got the proper air-fuel ratio, basically to create an explosion that pushes the piston down.
So the piston's coming up with a reservoir of fuel is what it's doing into that injector.
Well, no, it's coming up with a reservoir of air.
Oh, okay, very.
And then the injector sprays at a very high pressure and really highly atomized.
Right so there at the top of the stroke.
Right there at the top of the stroke. And that puts now this is a port fuel injection system, so you can see there the injector's behind the valve. So it sprays in on top of the valve, and then it kind of fills the combustion chamber.
That was a big thing in the
air.
80s.
Right. And port fuel was primarily introduced in the early 80s. And then there was the direct injected engine, and my fault, the yellow injector would drop down underneath the valve, and the direct injected engine would spray directly into the combustion chambers. That's why the compression ratio being so high and the fuel pressures being so high to bring that all in. And the technology is now that what I call the bathtub is all designed to reflect the fuel spray all up to the tip of the spark plug, so they could use less fuel, still get the correct amount of air-fuel mixture at the tip of the spark plug to push the piston down, and that's where the fuel economy benefits come from.
Get the
direct
same
injection.
burn power with less fuel.
With less fuel. But the for every action there's an opposite reaction. The opposite reaction is the area outside of where that fuel is very lean, and when combustion goes lean, it goes hot. So you got to remember, all around that outside of that piston is where the ring lands are. So that's where the problem comes with carbon deposits in the ring lands and ring sticking and blow by, and with blow-by, you get gasoline in your oil, which makes your oil more vaporous, so it evaporates faster as well as gets sucked up through the PCV system.
So,
Thins out your oil.
why not make the piston smaller so that you don't have to deal with that heat on the outside? Because you still have the same burn in the middle.
But you lose power because
Right,
you don't have enough surface.
Right. Well, and one of the other big things they did in the technology of pistons is they have changed the length of the skirt on a piston. So the skirt on a piston is what kept the piston from rocking back and forth. So in one of those pictures, and I forgot to get to it, it showed that they've actually put a polymer pad on the side of the piston to kind of fill in that space, because a piston skirt, when the piston gets hot, grows and gets larger so that the piston fits the cylinder better. Well, there's a lot of engines have what's called a piston slap when they're cold. So this polymer pad is designed to deal with that piston slap so that
there's no wobble.
There's no wobble. Gotcha. And it's kind of like Don and Jeff. They have short skirts as well.
I have to tell you that my dad worked for a company called Waukesha Motor Company. And they developed industrial engines, all sorts of sizes, from a little small 4-cylinder that actually was developed to start great big, huge 12 and 16-cylinder engines that wouldn't even fit in this room. They're so big. And he worked in the laboratory. And in the laboratory, they did all of the testing and found out, the best way to fuel them. Many of them were gasoline-driven. Most of them were diesels. Some of them were natural gas-driven engines. And he was in this laboratory where they actually blew up engines. And then they looked at the damage and what caused it to blow up. Was it the RPM? What couldn't handle the RPM? The most efficient way to get injections into
Fuel
each of
into the combustion chamber.
Right, all of that. And all of those were pretty much injected engines back in the day. And I think that they still are. That company has changed hands, and Dresser bought them and moved the factory up to Canada. But at any rate, he worked in the laboratory, and that's what they did.
And I'm sure your dad would enjoy that piece, because I'm sure he saw most of this evolve in his hands as the design of engines changed over time.
So pistons are round. We get that.
Not all.
I was going to say, aren't there some that are oval shaped?
Honda made a racing motorcycle with an oval shaped piston. It was a V4 engine, and
like a kidney bean shape almost.
It ended up being outlawed because it was just too advanced.
Radical.
Yeah, too advanced for everything.
Why would you do that? Save space?
Well, to save space, but also, you talked about the surface area. Right. Is what creates the power. So it gave them an opportunity to make more surface area on the piston in a smaller
combustion area
compartment. Right.
There you go.
Yeah, because it's all about size of the engine as well as size of what you're doing inside the engine.
So let me ask you this. So back, 69, 70, 71, we were putting flat tops in. We were trying to get compression ratios up 11, 12 to 1 or something like that. But then when the smog world came in, everything dropped to like 8, 8.5 or something. So, and now it's kind of cycled where it's coming back up. Why did they do that if it's more efficient at the higher compression ratios?
Well, it's more efficient because the fuel delivery systems are more efficient today. Back then, when you were doing that, you were doing a Holley or a Quadrajet, or maybe even a Carter if you were high tech.
No, we had Hollies. That's as far as we got.
It's whatever they could get out of the junkyard.
But, a carburetor spray is not an efficient fuel delivery system. They may work correctly, but they're not an efficient fuel delivery system. So they had to lower the compression ratio to make sure more of it burned efficiently, so the catalytic converter could clean it up. Today, they can get a good clean burn because they're spraying much less fuel in to create, remember what I said, that little photon torpedo right there at the tip of the spark plug. So that burns more efficiently, so they can raise the compression ratio and not have to worry about unburned fuel passing through the exhaust, which is the exhaust emissions that the federal government's concerned
Well, I
with.
knew it had something to do with the smog. I mean, that's what everybody said. Oh, it's the smog. Take the smog stuff off. But didn't really understand the reasoning.
They don't even use that technology in air pumps and stuff like that.
Well, and that's what I was just about to say. You got to remember, back in those days, you had an air pump. You actually had a belt-driven pump on the front of the engine that pumped oxygenated air into the exhaust manifold, trying to burn off that unburned fuel
or dilute it.
Well, no, actually trying to burn it off, trying to light it up and burn it off in the exhaust stream as it was headed for the catalytic converter. And that, and even before catalytic converters, that air pump was part of it. Air injection reaction is what air stood for, because they were just literally trying to keep the burn happening to kind of clean up.
You know, if you stop and think about all of that, how far we've come in such a short period of time.
Right.
You know, some of my favorite car shows are the Restorers show, and also, believe it or not, don't laugh at me, Wheeler Dealers, because they deal with some of that stuff, and they buy cars. They just recently bought an old, I don't remember what it was a Triumph or something.
They buy some of the weirdest cars.
They did. That the engine was built for leaded fuel, and they would put additives in it without having to do anything to the engine. Right. Well, two of them actually, engines, little 4-cylinder engines that really had no horsepower per se. They wound up with having to convert them, and to convert them really wasn't that big of a deal. You take the head off and you strengthen the valve seats. And that's really all that they needed to do. But it was a valve job on a car, so it was expensive to do because you had to send it to a machine shop to do it.
And you said that burning the fuel in the manifold or in the exhaust system before it got to the catalytic converter, you said technology's way in advance to the today from the air pump. We still have a catalytic converter.
Oh, yeah, we still have a catalytic converter.
The technology on that piece of equipment has increased, but you still have that part.
Yeah, you do.
And if you think about it, on the catalytic converter, you have two oxygen sensors.
Right.
You have one before the converter, which is an oxygen sensor. Believe me, if they're replacing your oxygen sensor, they may not know what they're doing. An oxygen sensor, all it does is tell the computer how much oxygen's in the exhaust stream. And the purpose of that is efficiently burned fuel, there should be very little oxygen in the exhaust stream. Inefficiently burned fuel, there's going to be a lot of oxygen left in the exhaust stream. So the O2 sensor tells the computer, hey, there's a lot of oxygen, and it's going to adjust the fuel mixture. Or, hey, there's very little oxygen, and it's going to adjust the fuel mixture. So if you get an O2 sensor code, first off, it means the oxygen sensor is working. When the guy at Advanced Auto Parts starts selling you an O2 sensor because you set a PO 130 or 172 code, they're wrong. The O2 sensor is working. That's why it set the code. There's something else wrong with the system. The fuel delivery system tends to be a vacuum leak, or it tends to be an injector that's dripping. Pick one. That's generally where the issue is.
I hate it when my injector drips.
I know it.
I have a pill for that.
A little blue one?
No, not a blue one. It's a little white one, actually. But at any rate, how about let's talk about crankshafts, and let's talk about flat plane.
Okay, I'll do that for next week.
And let's talk about this new engine that Chevrolet's got in the Corvette, the Z06 engine.
I think they call it a cross plane. And I think the reason they call it a cross plane is because I think flat plane is trademarked already by Ford on the Mustang with their flat plane crankshaft.
Well, I'll tell you what, it sounds like a sewing machine going by you.
Oh, yeah,
12,000 RPM or something. It's crazy. And I want to know about
Definitely
that. So let's do let's do that.
Okay.
And I don't know whether you need to incorporate camshafts with that.
No, the flat plane crank.
Yeah, standard crank, a flat plane, and this cross.
Yeah, and really, if you say flat plane, it just means, you ever had a crankshaft out?
Wait. Say next week.
Yeah, next week.
It's all about the look of the crankshaft. We'll show you all of that.
Corvette pace car this year at Indy? And isn't it a hybrid or I can't remember.
I think it's the new Z06.
No, it's the Z06.
Z06, okay.
Yeah. It's bad to the bone. Anyway, thank you very much for that.
Very cool, Conrad.
Yeah, very cool. So next week we'll do crankshafts.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
More than 1.8 million Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles now alert drivers in the U.S. and Canada of nearby fire trucks, ambulances, and road hazards through their Uconnect infotainment system. The idea of the feature came from a hearing-impaired Stellantis employee who nearly collided with an emergency vehicle she couldn't hear. The employee in 2021 suggested driver notifications to help avoid such calamities, and Stellantis deployed the emergency vehicle alert system from Haas Alert that it began rolling out last year. An over-the-air update it added the system to vehicles starting with the 2018 model year. Notifications came from Haas Alert's Safety Cloud platform, a vehicle-to-everything and digital alerting solution used by thousands of public and private roadway fleets in North America. The warnings are triggered when an emergency vehicle has its lights or siren on. Drivers zipping down the highway won't be alerted to a police vehicle simply parked on the side of the road. Stellantis is looking to expand the alerts by adding disabled vehicles to the list of hazards drivers can be notified of. The Hazard Enhanced Location Protocol feature, called HELP, comes from Emergency Safety Solutions Incorporated and uses the Haas Alert Safety Cloud. That story from Automotive News. And if you want any of these more details on these stories, go to automotivenews.com.
There you go.
Which kind of goes to our earlier interview today with Summit about how the interconnectivity of the vehicle and the data that can pass from the vehicle to the OEMs can also pass from emergencies to the vehicle.
Well, and also the vehicle that they couldn't hear, assuming it's electric, and who covers that insurance?
Jeff's got a great story about some statistics that I think that all of us, including you,
have you ever hooked up in an automobile, hooked up in a car? Mike, have you?
Shut up, Mars. You know exactly. The first person that has a smile on his face is Mars.
I know. Well, the number one vehicle to hook up in is a sedan. 65.9% of people have hooked up in a sedan. 40.6% of people have hooked up in an SUV. 30% in a coupe. 24% in a pickup truck. And 5% in a crossover. Now, percentage.
What about sport cars?
Well, I don't hear Volkswagen in there anywhere.
Satisfaction by vehicle type is SUV, number one. Coupe,
that's
number
where you're
two.
most satisfied hooking up is in an SUV?
That's what the wording says. They didn't get any detail, Conrad. But the percentage of Americans who hooked up in a vehicle, number one is Ford. 34.6% is a Ford. Chevrolet's 31.5% to hook up in, Mike. Honda, Toyota, Dodge, Nissan, all the way down to a what? Mercedes-Benz at 4.2% of people.
And it's last.
Triumph Spitfire GT6.
Now, if you're in a Mercedes, do it before it's
tiny little car.
Before it's recalled, then you get the Mercedes. Where do Americans park to hook up, Mike? Where do they do that in Beaumont?
Well,
in parking lot is 56.1%. In a remote location, 55%. In a driveway, 43%. On the side of the road, Conrad, 35.1%.
At a golf course.
Scenic overlook.
Hello, sir. What are you doing in there? You get out of there.
In a parking,
got to keep the rhythm right down.
Parking garage is 15.6%. Okay. The best spots outside of a vehicle. Check this out.
At the campsite.
On the trunk.
Standing outside the vehicle while using the vehicle as support.
Yep, the trunk.
On top of the car or on top of the hood.
Well, the hood, it kind of caves in.
I would think the top would too.
Well, you have a big dent in it. Yeah, but I'm thinking the trunk
got a
lid.
Dent in it. Hold on. I think I got more statistics
Shut up.
for you.
Don't look at me that way.
Hey, Leslie.
Oh, no. All right.
Is that why he keeps the cover on the Corvette?
I don't know.
Wait, did you look at it? How dirty it is right now?
I didn't look underneath the
There
cover.
are some different kind of prints on
I was going to say, it's easy to cover it up.
The best spots inside of a vehicle, which includes the coupe, crossover, or sedan. The back seat is 4.3%. The trunk or hatch is 2.3%. On a pickup truck, back seat or the truck bed, passenger vehicle, passenger seat or the driver's seat, and then same thing on the
There's
back
nothing mentioned about the center console there.
No, there's positions, but we're not going to get into that right now.
Oh,
There is
come
there
on.
positions?
The reverse cowgirl.
No. God, you can't do that. You can't. Is it on there? It's on there.
He
Let me
spotted
see
it.
that.
Hold
Let
on,
me
let me
see.
find it. You can have it.
No, I'm not going.
Yes, you are. You have to. It's funny.
It's this top graph. There's a graph.
Well, it has different,
but no pictures.
Let me think now.
Don wants the pictures.
Doggy style, sitting cowgirl, reverse cowgirl, missionary. Oh my God. There's even spooning on here.
Spooning. Mm-hmm. Not forking.
Well, I noticed that you actually skipped over.
I did skip over several.
You skipped over that.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and they give explicit diagrams in the. Where did you get this? What Playboy site is this off?
I know
of?
a guy.
You know a guy.
I know a guy.
Well, that's a pretty.
Don's going to use it as an instruction manual. Hey, Leslie,
he's keeping a copy.
You know, we're going to send this to HCC Community College and the Electric Vehicle Autonomy Program. There you go. Send that over
Shocking.
there.
Shocking.
It's shocking.
Okay. That's my contribution.
That was a good one. German authorities have serious indications of possible data protection violations by Tesla, Handelsblatt newspaper reported, citing the data protection office in the state where the carmaker has its European gigafactory. Tesla has failed to adequately protect data from customers, employees, and business partners, citing 100 gigabytes of confidential data leaked to the newspaper by a whistleblower. Files include tables containing more than 100,000 names of former and current employees, including the Social Security number of Tesla CEO Elon Musk, along with private email addresses, phone numbers, salaries of employees, bank details of customers, and secret details from production. Citing the leaked files, the newspaper reported about thousands of customer complaints regarding the carmaker's driver assistance systems, with around 4,000 complaints on unintended acceleration or phantom braking. Last month, Reuters report showed the groups of Tesla employees privately shared via an internal messaging system sometimes highly invasive videos and images recorded by customers' in-car cameras between 2019 and 2022. I think that goes along with your story there.
I was thinking the same thing.
Data Protection Office in the German state of Brandenburg, which is home to Tesla's European factory, described the data leak as massive.
Videos of Helga.
Helga.
Olga.
Yes, I worked with a girl by the name of Olga.
At a radio station?
No, at a television station.
She's still around?
Right. She is. She's still on TV, yep. Down in Florida somewhere, I think.
Wonderful.
Well, at any rate, we're going to take a break now.
Okay.
I hope.
That was an exciting segment.
Let's see.
I'll try to do better next week.
30 seconds. Tesla's surprise agreement with rival Ford to provide access to the Tesla Supercharger network opens the door for other automakers to follow suit. About 17,000 charging connectors. Tesla has the largest and most reliable fast charge network in the U.S. Ford customers will gain access to roughly 1,200 next year as part of the first such agreement between Tesla and another automaker. The deal with Tesla, with additional customers and a revenue for its coast-to-coast infrastructure of direct current chargers, which makes road trips and long commutes possible, more than doubles the number of fast charger plugs available to Ford customers from all charging partners. We'll be back after this.
Everyone at the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, thank you for participating in the best cruise in around and look forward to seeing you again. You'll hear about the next cruise in date right here on In Wheel Time. Next time you're in the West Houston Energy Corridor area, be sure and stop in at the original Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex at I-10 and Highway 6 or the Katy location on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard. When passing through Beaumont or College Station, stop in and have Lupi's award-winning beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. There's always a celebration at Lupi Tortilla. Lupi Tortilla founder Stan Holt and his wife Sheila are winning racers on the NHRA drag racing circuit and have a collection of hot rods and classics that everyone appreciates. Look for them at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In. The date will be announced soon and will once again be held at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex on 99 and Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 and Katy. We'll give you all the details right here on the In Real Time Car Talk Show and online. Donations benefit God's Garage. We'll see you then. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In-Wheel Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InWheelTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In-Wheel Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show. When you're online, check out our Facebook page. Give us a like, tell your friends about us, and share our junk if you would, please. You'll get Conrad's Unicorn Hunting features, along with all things automotive all week long, including new car reviews, upcoming events, cruise-ins, racing events, and other informative and entertaining car and truck goodies. You can find the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show 24/7 on the iHeart Radio app. Be sure to catch In-Wheel Time Car Talk on our live video stream on Facebook, YouTube, at InWheelTime.com every Saturday, 8 to 11 a.m. Central Time. Daily 30-minute podcasts are available from over a dozen of the most popular podcast providers. The In-Wheel Time Chief Engineer is David Ainsley. Our Marketing Advertising Advisor and Video Technical Director is We Need More, Jeff Zekin. For Booking Agent and Podcast Boy, Mike Mars. Along with Mr. Know-It-All, his royalty, King Conrad DeLong, I'm Don Armstrong. Next week, we're live again, Saturday, May 27th, 2023, and all of these In-Wheel Time Car Talk outlets right here on the Smoke and Mirrors Network, 8 to 11 a.m. Central Time. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Enjoy this holiday weekend with your family, and so long for now, and happy birthday to We Need More, Jeff Zekin.
Right. Yay.